Chapter 1636. Yi Qing Luo sneered. A cold-blooded, heartless, emotionless monster like you. How would you understand? After saying that, she looked at Qi. Qi, go find Qi Yin and wake him up. Roar. Qi let out a tiger roar, and the huge creature soared towards the scarlet flames in the sky. After knowing that Qi Yin was being controlled by the secret art, Qi was so anxious that it couldn't wait to rush out to stop Qi Yin. The current Qi was filled with guilt. In the heart vein, it actually didn't notice anything wrong with Qi Yin. It actually didn't notice that Qi Yin was being controlled. If it had noticed earlier, Qi Yin was very likely. Then it wouldn't be called the dark forces, a tool to deal with its master. It didn't believe that Qi Yin would really lose his nature. That arrogant and extremely arrogant Qi Yin. He would absolutely not be willing to be controlled by others. Qi rushed to the front of Qi Yin. But before it could get in contact with Qi Yin opened its mouth and spat out a blazing flame at Qi. Qi evaded in time, but its fur was still grazed by the fire. Ha! There's no power in this world that can break my secret art. Even a sacred beast is the same. Pharaoh, he laughed loudly, extremely confident in his curse. A young lass, whose hair hadn't even grown out. His lord was actually so fearful of her. That group of guardians from the dark forces were really becoming more and more useless. They actually fell into the hands of this young lass time and time again. Pharaoh, he looked at the disheveled wolf Saint Law with disdain and snorted coldly. This wolf Saint Law was usually extremely high profile in the dark forces. It could be said that even in front of his lord, he was always sloppy and didn't give any face to anyone. But now, he was in such a dire state that he had to seek help from him. After today's mission was completed, all the credit belonged to his Pharaoh's forces. His status in the Pharaoh's forces could surpass the status of the Saint Law. The status of an elder could also surpass the status of a guardian. With this thought in mind, the complacent smile on Pharaoh, his face grew thicker. It deeply hurt Wolf Saint Law's eyes. He resisted the disdainful gaze that Pharaoh, he shot at him. Between his brows, there was a sinister chill. The two of them looked calm, but each had their own thoughts. Pharaoh, his appearance, gave the remaining two elders some room to breathe a sigh of relief. They immediately found a safe place and continued to cast spells to ensure that the soul-assimilating array would not be destroyed. Yi Qing Luo was surrounded by those 1,000 overstudents. He couldn't hurt them, so he could only dodge. He could only control his strength and knock them out. He had no way of finding Pharaoh Crane. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Pharaoh, he also began to participate in the embroidery soul assimilation formation. 3 of the soul assimilating array's fiery eyes had already been destroyed. The only remaining eye of the formation. It supported the entire soul assimilation array. Moreover, Pharaoh, his incantation and mental strength were things that these elders could not compare to. But within a short period of time, the damage array which was destroyed by Yi Qing Luo had already been restored. The speed at which Pharaoh, he repaired the spirit assimilating array made Yi Qing Luo shocked. She had spent so much time to destroy 3 formation cores. However, it was easily repaired by Pharaoh Crane. If he didn't get rid of Pharaoh, once the soul assimilating array was formed, all of them would die here. Furthermore, his soul had been devoured, and he would never be able to reincarnate. The last formation, Core Flame. It must be exterminated. Yi Qing Luo's gaze suddenly turned cold as she raised her leg, sending the wave of students who were surrounding her flying away. Chapter 1637. Pharaoh, he noticed Yi Qing Luo's actions as his eyes were filled with disdain. Overestimating yourself. Since you can't wait to send yourself to death, I shall grant you your wish. Pharaoh, his fingers formed a hand seal as he muttered. Following that, a ball of black flame suddenly sprang up on his fingertips. Dense, mysterious Qi danced at the tip of his finger. Swoosh! The mysterious Qi, which looked like a burning flame, suddenly formed a huge coiling dragon on top of the spell. The huge black dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws towards Yi Qing Luo's face. No wonder he's a pharaoh-level character from the Dark Forces. He can even use offensive spells with ease. Old Man Song saw the huge dragon formed by the profound Yin-Chi through Yi Qing Luo's eyes and couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Offensive spells? Yi Qing Luo evaded the huge dragon's attack as she looked at it puzzledly. Offensive spells are to use one's own mental power to combine with sinister spells to summon something with battle ability to help oneself win a beautiful battle. Old Man Song explained, like now, the dark spell that Pharaoh he is casting is to summon the huge dragon for him to attack. Yi Qing Luo listened to his explanation. She bent her body and evaded the huge dragon's attack, which was about to swallow her up. Her footsteps also moved quickly. You're not joking, are you? Summoning a huge dragon and using it to attack the enemy? Wasn't this a summoner summoning a little divine dragon? Moreover, this wasn't a real dragon. It was a dragon formed by the profound Yin-Chi. No matter how she fought it, it wouldn't die. Yi Qing Luo was depressed. Heavens must be playing a trick on her. Your target is the two elders behind him. As long as you get the blood of one of them and destroy the last array, the rest will be much easier. Old Man Song reminded. Easy to say, this pharaoh he won't give me a chance to get close. Yi Qing Luo frowned. This pharaoh he's ability is not as good as you. Old Man Song pondered for a moment. He's only relying on casting a curse to create pressure on you. As long as you can think of a way to stop him from casting the curse, you can absolutely use his blood to destroy the last array. Even if it's to stop him from casting the spell, it's still an extremely difficult task. Yi Qing Luo looked at the huge dragon in front of her, whose attacks were getting more and more ferocious, as she was already feeling frustrated from hiding. This huge dragon of profound Yin energy had been protecting Pharaoh all this time. Even approaching Pharaoh Crane was a problem for her. Not to mention stopping Pharaoh Crane from casting the curse. Unless Yi Qing Luo's eyes sparkled with a sliver of brilliance. If he couldn't do it openly, then he could do it in the dark to deal with such a despicable and shameless opponent. Naturally, he had to use extreme measures. Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned cold as she looked at the giant dragon that was baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. His figure suddenly swayed. With a naked eye, one could only see a white skirt fluttering in the wind, like a gorgeous flower blooming. Immediately after, a feather fan that flickered with a demonic and mysterious light appeared, carrying with it an extremely dense and powerful force. It directly blasted that huge dragon into pieces. Pharaoh, he was immensely pleased with himself for using the dark curse to summon the huge dragon. That huge dragon was actually defeated by Yi Qing Luo's counterattack. And because of the curse's backlash, Pharaoh, his chest felt stuffy as his body tensed up and trembled. He abruptly retreated a few steps. His slender figure swayed slightly. He finally stabilized his footsteps. Chapter 1638. Pharaoh's reaction was not bad. Just as Yi Qing Luo's leg was about to hit him, his body moved backwards. Following that, he somersaulted sideways and avoided Yi Qing Luo's leg. Although he wasn't injured, but Pharaoh, he had suffered losses in Yi Qing Luo's hands time and time again. That pride in his heart had suffered a serious blow. Immediately, his face sunk and his fingers formed a hand seal as he recited a series of incantations, which Yi Qing Luo couldn't understand. Yi Qing Luo could only retreat when she saw this. Pharaoh's incantations were many, sinister, and poisonous. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to take the risk to test Pharaoh's incantations. Moreover, only she was clear about it. She had just destroyed the huge dragon and attacked Pharaoh. How much energy had she expended? Pharaoh's incantations were not as powerful as what ordinary people imagined. Even if Pharaoh he was in the profound grade, he might not be Yi Qing Luo's opponent. But Pharaoh he could rely on his offensive incantations to deplete Yi Qing Luo's energy. Releasing the profound energy of the sky, profound realm consumed 2/3 of his profound energy and smashed the giant dragon into pieces in one fell swoop. Yiqing Luo was already feeling exhausted, but she absolutely could not show any signs of exhaustion. Once she revealed any signs of exhaustion, Pharaoh he would definitely follow up with another attack. By then, she wouldn't be able to stop him. But now, she had shattered the huge dragon into pieces and made Pharaoh he feel embarrassed. This had already caused a kind of shock in Pharaoh he's heart. Pharaoh he didn't dare to casually choose to attack. She could also get a moment of rest. Young lady is indeed arrogant. Pharaoh he's heart was overflowing with anger. In his eyes, Yiqing Luo was just a small sky profound cultivator. Not to mention that she was just a small cultivator who had just stepped into the sky profound stage. Even if she was a sky profound 5th grade cultivator. In front of him, Pharaoh she was just a piece of trash that could be easily oppressed. She was just a silly lass. Her innate talent was slightly stronger. Did she really think that she was that powerful? Pharaoh he pointed his hand seal forward. Yiqing Luo felt the ground suddenly shaking incessantly. Her heart tightened. Instinctively, she took a step back, and the moment she retreated, a sharp object shrouded in a black aura rose from the ground where she had been standing. They were sharp rocks formed from the ground. If only Yiqing Luo had not taken a step back, perhaps she was about to be split in half by that sharp stone. This Pharaoh he was really going for the kill, not waiting for Yiqing Luo to think further. Yiqing Luo felt the surging feeling from the ground once again. She glanced at the extremely sharp stone. He quickly dodged to the side. Immediately following that, pieces of sharp, huge rocks rose up from the ground, as though they were following Yiqing Luo's footsteps. As they kept following her footsteps, as pieces of them cracked. After a while, rows of extremely sharp boulders had already emerged from the ground of the entire area. Looking at Yiqing Luo's battered and exhausted appearance, Pharaoh he scoffed. His fingers, which were forming seals, quickly changed their movements. The dense, mysterious qi surged out rapidly. This old man wants to see how much energy you have to escape. Pharaoh he sneered. Following that, he grabbed hold of the time and walked in front of those two elders. Together with them, they displayed their secret arts to set up the spirit assimilation array. With the addition of Pharaoh the spirit assimilation array received a huge supply of energy. Chapter 1639. Girl, we must stop that Pharaoh At this moment, Old Man Song wished he could rush out of the Azure Dew bracelet and transform into a spiritual body to stop Pharaoh Yiqing Luo dodged the sharp boulders. Her forehead was already full of sweat. I also want to stop it, but this damn thing, how on earth can it stop? This boulder had completely locked onto her. She continued to walk around the boulders. The entire ground was filled with boulders, and it was so deep that no one could stand on it. Devil classes students were trying their best to stop those 1,000 over students from disturbing Yiqing Luo. Chi and the vermilion bird were still circling in the air. Could it be, was he really going to let Shiju come out? Shiju was still a young wolf-type mirage beast. This kind of battle situation summoned Shiju. It was equivalent to sending Shiju to its death. Lass, your memory is so bad. Seeing that Yiqing Luo thought of Shiju, Old Man Song also suddenly recalled. Didn't Shiju swallow the Gui Wu who guarded the 18 levels of hell in the Heavenly Pagoda's experiment? Gui Wu, that meatball that could continuously regenerate? Before they participated in the inter-class competition. It was a test of strength organized by the Academy. Once they entered the Heavenly Pagoda, the final obstacle would be this Gui Wu. Right? Shiju had devoured Gui Wu. In other words, he had inherited Gui Wu's regeneration ability. There was this effect. Yiqing Luo totally didn't need to worry about Shiju's safety. Thinking of this, Yiqing Luo summoned Shiju out. Upon receiving the order, Shiju immediately charged in Pharaoh He's direction. Pharaoh He frowned slightly. as though he had not expected that Yi-Ching Luo could actually summon out a war pet. Just as he was about to retract his mental power from the soul assimilation array, a voice suddenly rang out. A figure suddenly flashed in front of him. Following that, he saw Wolf Saint carrying Yi-Ching Qian as it blocked in front of Shiju. He frowned slightly, his face full of displeasure. "Pharaoh He, please hurry up." Seeing Holy Wolf taking the initiative to help, Pharaoh He sneered inwardly. He did not reply to the wolf sacred technique. Instead, he closed his eyes and released his psychic energy once more. Yi-Ching Luo was also paying attention to Shiju's movements. Seeing that Shiju had been surrounded by the wolf saint technique, they immediately started fighting. Yi-Ching Luo's heart tightened. Shiju's combat ability had yet to undergo training. How could he be a match for the wolf saint technique? Old man song, if I were to release the thunderclap arts now. Yi-Ching Luo clenched her teeth. She couldn't sit still and wait for death. A secret technique manual to clear the first 2 floors of the Purgatory Tower. She had learned it, but she could not use it in front of others. But now, he couldn't care less. No, Old Song stopped him without hesitation. If you use the Thunderclap art, then the Dark Powers will know that the Azure Dew bracelet is in your hands. Are you sure that you have the ability to protect the Azure Dew bracelet? Yi-Ching Luo knitted her brows tightly. She turned around and avoided the sharp boulder that was chasing after her. He looked sideways at Shiju, who was obviously at a disadvantage in the hands of the Wolf Saint technique. His gaze shifted to the side. Seeing the 50 over Devil class students being surrounded by 1,000 over students, not even a drop of water could trickle through. He couldn't hurt those students. The students of Devil class could only knock those students unconscious. However, there were simply too many of them. Their physical strength was also limited. Their bodies were covered with wounds of various sizes. Yi-Ching Luo's pink lips pursed tightly. Clang, clang. A sharp cry came from the air. Yi-Ching Luo raised her head. She saw Chi-Chi's charred fur, whereas Chi-Yin flapped his wings, without any intention of showing mercy to Chi-Chi. Chapter 1640. Lass, don't be rash. Sensing the raging fury in Yi-Ching Luo's heart, Old Man Song's voice was filled with urgency. Once Yi-Ching Luo released the Thunderclap arts, the Dark Forces would most likely place their attention on the Thunderclap arts. And then, the secret of the Azure Dew bracelet would be exposed to the lower realms. If the news of the Azure Dew bracelet's reappearance reached the upper realms, this lower realm, it would probably set off a bloodbath. The more Old Man Song thought, the more anxious he got. But he hadn't finished his words. Suddenly, he felt an extremely horrifying, profound chi flowing on Yi-Ching Luo's body. The enchanting, profound chi enveloped Yi-Ching Luo from head to toe. The surrounding profound chi was like a raging storm, surging around Yi-Ching Luo's body continuously. This lass, could it be? Bam, bam, bam. A deafening explosion was heard. Following that, those huge rocks which kept on following Yi-Ching Luo's footsteps, which kept gushing out from the ground, started to explode. The entire stretch of sharp boulders that rose from the ground had already turned into ruins. Pharaoh he saw that his curse was destroyed by Yi-Ching Luo using such a barbaric method. His face revealed a shocked and aghast expression. When he opened his eyes and looked at Yi-Ching Luo, Pharaoh he had even stopped chanting the incantation, only to see that young lady floating above the ruins. Her green and white uniform was fluttering under the strong wind. That long black hair which had reached her buttocks danced on her shoulders, as misty as smoke. That devastatingly beautiful face was extremely gloomy and cold, suffused with a murderous viciousness. The most dazzling thing was that pair of eyes which were filled with killing intent. The brilliance circulated like the brightest stars in the sky, bewitching people's hearts, taking their lives. This kind of imposing manner, it was totally different from the previous imposing manner. The current Yi-Ching Luo was like a queen who controlled everything in the world. Above the 9 heavens, no one could match her. The first level of the Sky Profound Realm was actually this powerful. The current I Ching Luo had unleashed all the energy in her body. Sky Profound Supreme. It was known as the supreme, profound strength of the strong. Only the Earth Profound third-grade pharaoh he was able to use his mental power to cast a curse. Yet I Ching Luo could use her profound energy to directly break it. Girl, you're too reckless. Old Man Song was aware of the motive behind I Ching Luo's actions. His heart was somewhat distressed, but he was extremely helpless. At this moment, Old Man Song was extremely fed up with his current self. He was unable to manifest his spiritual body, unable to help I Ching Luo. He could only watch helplessly as I Ching Luo fell into a predicament from within the Azure Dew bracelet. I Ching Luo's current body, because of the profound Yin Qi which could control her consciousness at any time, was totally unable to unleash all her profound energy. Otherwise, it would be easy for the mysterious Yin aura to seize the opportunity to control her. But I Ching Luo still released her profound energy. He could not use the thunderclap incantation. He could only use this most direct method. Wolf Saint technique. Quick, stop her. Now only you can stop her. Pharaoh, he looked at I Ching Luo's icy, cold, murderous gaze as his face turned pale from fright. Pharaoh craned strength, lied in his curses, but his curses were all dark curses. It was a forbidden, sinister curse in this world. It broke the laws of this world. Naturally, it would receive the punishment and backlash from the heavenly way. Pharaoh, he was very clear, even if he used his curses to stop I Ching Luo's footsteps. Chapter 1641. As for himself, because of the excessive consumption of his mental power, instead, he would collapse even more than I Ching Luo. Wolf Saint technique split Shiju apart with one palm as he shot a cold glance at Elder He. The expression on his face revealed a sliver of disdain. Trash. You. Elder He's expression sunk. This Wolf Saint technique was obviously taking revenge for calling him trash earlier. Wolf Saint technique gave a cold harumph as he retracted his gaze and headed towards I Ching Luo's direction. No matter how much they didn't get along, under the current situation, they couldn't fight amongst themselves. I Ching Luo narrowed her eyes as she didn't even bother to look at Wolf Saint technique. Just as Wolf Saint technique's attack was about to hit her, I Ching Luo's figure suddenly disappeared into thin air. In a blink of an eye, I Ching Luo appeared beside Shiju. Earlier, Wolf Saint technique's palm had struck Shiju onto the ground, making it unable to move. I Ching Luo looked at Shiju, who was lying on the ground, spitting out blood. The coldness in her eyes grew thicker. Slut! How dare you belittle this Saint technique? Wolf Saint technique bellowed angrily as he hugged I Ching chin tightly as he leapt forward. With a palm strike, it brought along a black, profound Yin whirlwind as it struck towards I Ching Luo's back. The baleful aura was like a ray, as though it wanted to devour everything in the world. I Ching Luo's squinted eyes shot out a chilly intent as it became more and more penetrating. Her fingers, which were caressing Shiju's black fur, moved. The glower flame fan instantly left her palm. In the middle of her palm, a few numbers flipped rapidly. Following that, like a sharp blade, it shot towards the palm wind behind her. Boom! The glower flame fan's enchanting red glow collided with the palm wind, which was filled with profound Yin Qi. The black aura was constantly flowing. That valiant aura was like an avalanche, as though it wanted to suppress that enchanting red glow completely. But just at this moment, that red glow, which was enveloped by the profound Yin Qi, suddenly, it released a stream of blazing flame. Carrying an extremely terrifying aura, it broke apart all the aura. Boom, boom, boom. Another one or two loud vibrations were heard. As the glowing flame fan spun rapidly, it actually split apart the mysterious Yin Qi of the palm wind. The bewitching red light gradually gained the upper hand. Lang Sheng Fa's expression sunk, as if he had not expected Yiqing Luo to have such overbearing strength. He immediately pushed out his palm again. The violent palm wind was accompanied by dense, mysterious qi. In an instant, the palm wind surged like a flood. Qing Luo, Madam Qing Luo. When the Devil class students saw that, they were filled with worry. Unfortunately, they couldn't find the time. The encirclement of more than 1,000 students had completely exhausted all of their strength. "Don't mind me." Yiqing Luo's chilly voice revealed an extreme chill. Her frosty face had already been frozen into ice. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth lingered around her body. Gradually, a white protective barrier was formed. She narrowed her eyes, and the corners of her mouth curled up into a cold smile. It was ridiculous. It was simply laughable. A few Devil class students, because of this moment of absent-mindedness, were struck by students from other academies. Meanwhile, the bewitching red light that was surrounded by the black gas suddenly released a dazzling light. Bang! The glower flame fan collided with that surging palm wind. Following that, it went straight towards Lang Sheng Fa's face. "What?" Lang Sheng Fa stared at Yiqing Luo in disbelief. This sky profound first-grade cultivator actually broke through his profound chi attack? How could this be possible? One must know that after the sky profound stage, the difference of 1 grade was like a world of difference. A sky profound second-grade cultivator could easily suppress a sky profound first-grade cultivator. Not to mention, he was now a sky profound third-grade cultivator. Chapter 1642. Not allowing Wolf Saint Magic to think too much. The glower fan's attack was already right in front of him. The profound strength of the first grade of the sky, profound realm, was extremely dense and vigorous. It was accompanied by a terrifying red glow. Wolf Saint Magic swiftly evaded. With a flip of his hand, his palm struck towards the glower fan. That palm chi was like a huge dragon galloping, engulfing the mountains and rivers, obviously intending to destroy the glower fan completely. But the Wolf Saint Technique's palm had yet to strike out. He heard Pharaoh He's sharp howl. "Wolf trash. Are you blind? Why are you competing with a magical weapon?" That young lady went to destroy the last array eye. The last array eye? Wolf Saint Magic's pupils constricted. His state of mind relaxed a little at this moment. Bam! In this moment of absent-mindedness, the glowing flame fan coincidentally struck his raised palm. "Ah!" Wolf Saint Magic screamed. That glower fan carried a violent, profound chi and directly pierced through Wolf Saint Magic's palm. Wolf Saint Magic painfully retracted his bloody hand. "Idiot!" Pharaoh He gritted his teeth and scolded in a low voice. "Your Sacred Law Society is simply incapable of accomplishing anything." And at this moment, Yiqing Luo shot the glower fan towards Wolf Saint Magic. She headed towards the direction of one of the elders who was still casting the spell. The fatal profound chi shot out from Yiqing Luo's palm. Her face was emotionless, and her pair of blood-stained eyes were ice-cold. This Yiqing Luo, like a bloodthirsty killer god from hell. Even Devil classes students were shocked by Yiqing Luo's expression. That elder had no chance to resist and died under Yiqing Luo's palm wind. Blood splattered. Yiqing Luo grabbed the elder's corpse and took out his blood. Qing Luo. Yin Xiao looked at Yiqing Luo in front of her. Her voice was trembling. This Yiqing Luo looked extremely unfamiliar. Yiqing Luo heard the voice and glanced sideways at Yin Xiao. Her exquisite face was stained with the elder's blood that splattered out. It made that face even more seductive and charming. However, the coldness in his eyes did not have the slightest bit of warmth that he usually had. Such a Yiqing Luo, even they. Shivers ran down his spine. Qing! Yin Xiao clenched her fists tightly as she wanted to continue talking to Yiqing Luo. But Yiqing Luo had already turned her head around. Holding the blood in her hands, she headed towards the direction of the last array eye. Yin Xiaoyi's voice was stuck in her throat. Qing Luo is a little strange. have you all realized? In shout, he said softly. In. A few devil-class students nodded. Yiqing Luo had never used that kind of expression to look at them. What was going on? Why was the current Yiqing Luo? Why does he look so strange? Yiqing Luo quickly approached the last array eye. If one looked closely, they could clearly see the cold sweat seeping out of her forehead. Her tightly knitted brows furrowed into several layers of wrinkles. Damn it! Just as Xian had said, she could not force herself to release all of her profound rank. As expected, forcefully consuming the power of the profound jade heart. She could no longer control her mind. Perhaps it was because he had lost control too many times. This time, she actually sensed something. She sensed the blood in her body boiling. She could feel a voice in her head that was constantly clamoring for her to kill everyone present. Bursts of piercing pain in her heart seemed to be stimulating her senses, especially when she had completely concentrated all her energy on the glower flame fan, attacking the wolf saint technique. Chapter 1643. Heavens knew how much willpower she had used. Only then did she forcefully suppress the restless feeling in her heart. At this moment, Yiqing Luo felt extremely fortunate. When she was the patriarch of the Yi family's hidden family, she had suffered various kinds of inhumane torture from those old men. There was one of them, which was the torture towards willpower. Under the inhumane torture of those old men, she had been tortured for an entire month. Tortured until she was about to lose her mind. Tortured until she was on her last breath, about to die. And through those tortures, successfully surviving till now. Her willpower was beyond what a normal person could imagine. Otherwise, when she had just crossed over to this world, under the situation where her profound jade heart was dug out and she was forcefully fed with medicine, she could still make the most direct response. What she relied on was that inhumane willpower. Today, this willpower had once again saved her life. But this kind of forceful suppression would not solve the root of the problem. She had to find out where that mysterious force, which was controlling her consciousness, came from. Only then could she get rid of that inexplicable, profound yin-chi in her body. Then she could rest assured. In her chest, that heart was beating faster and faster, as though it was about to jump out from her throat. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and increased her speed as she headed straight towards the array eye. Quick! Stop Yiqing Luo. The last array, I must not be destroyed. Pharaoh's sharp and flustered voice kept ringing. Those remaining 100 over Dark Ones and 10 over Dark Guardians swarmed towards Yiqing Luo's direction. This bunch of students were simply too crazy. They had never seen such abnormal youngsters. Just based on 50 over people, they actually blocked off the attacks of 1,000 over students. And they were able to delay them, not allowing them to stop Yiqing Luo. They absolutely could not let these students leave the blazing flame nest alive. This thought made the dark forces battle intent ignite. All of them broke through the devil class's students' obstruction and charged towards Yiqing Luo without a care for their lives. Momentarily, the entire area which was surrounded by the array formation. It had all sunk into a terrifying atmosphere, as the atmosphere froze into ice. Yiqing Luo was just a few steps away from the last array eye. The Dark Guardian had already rushed over and speedily attacked Yiqing Luo, preventing her from moving forward. Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold as an extremely cold breath started to encircle her feet. Like a whirlwind, it circled around his body. The glowing flame fan in her hand suddenly opened and was raised high up. Wind blades that were as sharp as blades flew towards the Dark Protectors. The Dark Protectors didn't have time to dodge. They were cut into pieces by the wind blades. The thick smell of blood added a nauseating smell to the cold air. Fresh blood splashed onto Yiqing Luo's face and body. Yiqing Luo's expression was emotionless, as her eyes were filled with an icy cold glint as she stared coldly at the dark party who kept rushing over, blocking her way. The flames around his body made him look like a bloodthirsty god of death. He raised his hand, and a terrifying ray of light swept across the area. Wherever the profound energy went, it left behind a deep pit. Corpses flew out one after another. Even the Dark Ones, who were used to seeing slaughter, were shocked by this scene. At this moment, he was so scared that his legs felt like jelly. Some of them didn't dare to go nearer to Yi Qing Luo's direction. Was this really that 15-year-old young lady? She was so vicious and merciless in killing people. Furthermore, she was still so calm, without any change in expression. It was as though Chapter 1644. What are you waiting for? Pharaoh He's heart was burning with anxiety. His fingers rapidly formed hand seals, and he used his powerful mental power to once again cast a dark curse. A thick stream of profound Yin-Chi turned into whirlwinds filled with murderous aura. That whirlwind seemed as though it had condensed into raging waves as it surged towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. The range of the whirlwind was extremely large. Yi Qing Luo had nowhere to escape to. Naturally, those Dark Ones who were surrounding Yi Qing Luo couldn't avoid being attacked by the whirlwind. However, Pharaoh He did not mind. As long as he could stop Yi Qing Luo from getting closer to the last flame array eye. Even if all the Dark Ones were dead, he would not hesitate to do so. Yi Qing Luo had nowhere to hide from these whirlwinds. Only by leaving the range of the formation could he avoid the whirlwind and survive. Pharaoh He. The Dark Ones howled in pain as the whirlwind attacked them. But their voices only lasted for an instant. He disappeared into the whirlwind. The whirlwind was like a demon that could devour everything. Not even their bones were left of the countless Dark Ones. Immediately following that, those numerous whirlwinds enveloped Yi Qing Luo tightly. It had completely engulfed Yi Qing Luo. Ha ha! Seeing this, Pharaoh He could not help but laugh out loud. His sinister eyes gleefully looked at Yi Qing Luo, who was engulfed by the whirlwind. Confirming that the whirlwind had indeed swallowed Yi Qing Luo completely. Pharaoh He immediately flew toward the eye of the formation. When he was about to reach the eye of the formation, Pharaoh He's face turned pale. With his powerful mental power, a hint of vigilance surfaced in his heart. His footsteps came to a halt. In the meantime, that frightening whirlwind was still as imposing as before, mixed with the crushed stones and limbs of the corpses on the ground. However, the only difference was the whirlwind was surrounded by rings of powerful red light. They were densely packed, one after another, like a continuous stream of red electricity. This power. Pharaoh He's face was deathly pale as he stared at the whirlwind in shock. No, impossible. How could a first-grade sky, profound Xian practitioner possess such formidable strength? An enchanting red glow. Strands of silk wrapped around the whirlwind. Bang! The earth shook and the mountains shook. The whirlwind slowly opened up a gap. A figure covered in blood and covered in a cold aura rushed out. After that figure broke through the whirlwind, without any hesitation, Zhang Xian headed straight for the eye of the formation. With a schwa sound, the elder's blood fell onto the formation's eye. Rumble! As the flames were extinguished, the entire area began to collapse. Soul assimilation array, it was completely destroyed. How is this possible? Pharaoh Crane staggered a few steps back. On this trembling ground, he was unable to stand firm and fell heavily to the ground. He was originally proud and arrogant. At this moment, he was like a stray dog. He had never expected this. Yi Qing Luo could actually destroy the array core. After releasing all of the power of the profound Jade Heart, he was actually still able to maintain his rationality. The truth is right in front of you. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice was devoid of any emotion. She looked coldly at Pharaoh He, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Release the control of the scarlet flame. You. Pharaoh He cowered as he retreated backwards, turning his head to see Wolf Saint Art standing by the side. Quickly go up. Chapter 1645. Pharaoh He's face turned pale as he looked at Yi Qing Luo's chest. When his gaze met the energy released by the profound jade heart, his expression changed as he turned to look at Wolf Saint Magic in shock. This is impossible. Wolf Saint Magic sneered. That laughter was filled with sarcasm. Quickly bring me away. Let's go. Pharaoh He panicked. The array was already destroyed, and he didn't have that much mental power to cast the spells to deal with Yi Qing Luo. Moreover, his curse to the current Yi Qing Luo had no effect at all. Her profound jade heart, it actually released a purple brilliance. Purple, what did it represent? That was the highest grade of the profound jade heart. Back then, when Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart was dug out and sent to the dark forces, Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart had also passed through his hands. He knew that Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart was a rare and extremely talented profound jade heart. But that was merely a blue jade grade. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo purple. In this lower realm, a blue jade grade profound heart jade was already considered a heaven-defying existence. Not to mention the highest grade purple jade. This Yi Qing Luo, what kind of pervert was she? No wonder his lord tried all ways and means to obtain Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart. To obtain this vessel, which contained the profound jade heart. Purple jade grade profound jade heart. Everyone in the world wanted it. Heh, what's the use of just knowing some spells and spells? At the crucial moment, you can't even protect your own life. Wolf Saint Magic ridiculed Pharaoh He, his eyes filled with ridicule. Pharaoh He's face turned pale. The pride and self-esteem in his heart made his expression filled with anger. But due to the current situation, he could only seek help from Wolf Saint Magic. Finally, he suppressed his anger. Wolf Saint Magic, today's mission's failure. You and I are both responsible. If you don't save me, you can't take on his lord's anger alone. What has the mission got to do with me? These people are not from Wolf Saint Magic's forces. Wolf Saint Technique laughed heartily as his gaze swept past the icy cold young lady whose eyes were filled with killing intent. He trash. Just stay here and enjoy Yi Qing Luo's wrath. Ha ha. He hugged the person in his arms tightly. His figure suddenly retreated. Then, he quickly moved toward a certain direction in the spear formation. Yi Qing Luo lifted her eyelids. A cold glint, like a sharp blade, shot straight in the direction of the Wolf Saint Technique. Her cold eyes were filled with murderous intent. You still want to run after injuring my Shiju? A chilly voice, as though it was wrapped in frost, spat out from Yi Qing Luo's pink lips, word by word. She flipped her hand. The gourd flame fan raised a fire dragon in the palm of his hand. Then, her body followed the fire dragon like a spinning top. Under the xianqi released by the devouring flame fan, it continued to spin, charging straight at the Wolf Saint Technique with irresistible force. Wolf Saint Fa felt a chill run down his spine. He thought that with his speed, Yi Qing Luo wouldn't be able to find him. However, when that powerful dark force rushed towards him, he felt a chill run down his spine. Wolf Saint Technique then realized. The current Yi Qing Luo was really not the previous Yi Qing Luo. The current her was too decisive and ruthless. There was no hesitation in her every move. Direct and decisive. Ruthless and vicious. Bam! That powerful, profound energy landed with a loud bang. Wolf Saint Technique couldn't even catch his breath. Chapter 1646. The pressure behind Lang Xingfa's back caused his body to fall forward. Yi Qing Qian, who was in his arms, almost fell out. Wolf Saint Magic clenched his teeth tightly. He abruptly turned Yi Qing Qian's body to the same position as him. With a swoosh sound, Wolf Saint Magic's back was stuck to the ground, sweeping a long ditch. The ground had collapsed due to the destruction of the spirit assimilation array. There was sharp gravel everywhere. Wolf Saint Magic's back had swept out such a long line on the ground. The flesh on his back was probably badly mutilated. After the pressure from the impact dissipated, Wolf Saint Magic fell onto the ground powerlessly. Yi Qing Qian lay steadily on his body. His vision swept past Yi Qing Qian's face, as though he had confirmed that she was not injured. Then he slowly heaved a sigh of relief. The moment he heaved a sigh of relief, his chest suddenly felt stuffy. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth. The expression on Wolf Saint Magic's face gradually turned sinister. He raised his head and stared angrily at Yi Qing Luo. Wolf Saint Magic is indeed infatuated. I can't help but be touched by Wolf Saint Magic's infatuation towards eldest sister. Yi Qing Luo's icy cold voice was filled with an eerie chill. Her lips curled as she revealed a cold smile. That frosty eyes were calm and cold. There was no hint of being touched at all. Wolf Saint Magic wanted to get up, but the sharp pain from his back made him suck in a breath of cold air. Hearing his painful groan, Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as her smile deepened. Is it painful? It's right if it's painful. What my brothers have suffered, you have to suffer 100 times more pain. She slowly walked towards the Holy Wolf technique. Her footsteps were light and steady. The gravel on the ground made a sha-sha sound under the friction of her shoes. That sound was in Wolf Saint Magic's ears. It was like a grievous news demanding his life. She got closer. His heart constricted. This Yi Qing Luo's imposing manner was strong, and her entire body was covered in flames. It was not an aura that a sky-profound first-grade cultivator would have. Where on earth had gone wrong? Why did everything not go according to the original plan? Everything had deviated from the original track. Yi Qing Luo's smile bloomed on her lips. The powerful aura was getting more and more violent. The glowing flame fan in Xiao Chen's hand was also surrounded by red electric currents, continuously accumulating power. Immediately after, Yi Qing Luo's palm moved. That profound light directly attacked the Wolf Saint technique. His aura was like a rainbow, and he was as fast as lightning. The Wolf Saint technique wanted to dodge. However, he was carrying a person in his arms. The slightest movement of the muscles on his back was accompanied by an excruciating pain. There was no time to react at all, seeing that the dark force was about to land on his body. Suddenly, a murderous in-chi exploded on the Wolf Saint Law's body. Boom, boom, boom. A deafening tremor reverberated. Yi Qing Luo's strike had created a huge black hole on the ground. And on the ground, there was no sign of Wolf Saint Fa and Yi Qing Qian. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she recalled the in-chi which she sensed from the Wolf Saint technique earlier. His expression sank, and his eyes turned cold as he immediately looked in the direction of Pharaoh He. Sure enough, Pharaoh He was chanting a curse. His other hand rested on the Wolf Saint Law, who was riddled with scars. Yi Qing Luo realized something as her eyes were filled with murderous intent. Trying to escape, her footsteps expanded as she speedily flew nearer. But a burst of dense, profound in-chi wrapped the three of them tightly. A strong hurricane surged on the ground. In a split second, the three of them who were enveloped by the black chi disappeared from their original positions. It was the dark incantation again. Chapter 1647. Yi Qing Luo's heart was burning with rage. His eyes were filled with cold, murderous intent. She clenched her fists tightly, and her expression was extremely cold. She wanted to kill Lang Xingfa. She wanted to kill Pharaoh Crane. Those who had harmed her brothers had to die. Lass. Just as Yi Qing Luo's mind was filled with intense killing intent, Old Man Song's voice called back Yi Qing Luo's consciousness. Her long, curly eyelashes trembled slightly. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed coldly. Don't let hatred and anger blind you. Old Man Song's voice was solemn. Those who can pose a threat have already escaped. Now calm down and calm down. Calm down? How could she calm down? Hershey Ju was still lying on the ground. Her hair was singed all over her body. Her brothers were covered in wounds of various sizes. All of this, it was all because of the dark forces. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh He left. Was she just going to let it go like this? No. Impossible. No matter what, she couldn't let it go so easily. Wolf Saint Dharma, Pharaoh He, and Yi Qing Qian, all of them deserve to die. The chilling, killing intent surging in his heart continued to rise. Bit by bit, it eroded her sanity. Old Man Song was as anxious as an ant on a hot pot. His words were unable to recall Yi Qing Luo's consciousness. If Yi Qing Luo was allowed to be corroded by hatred and fury, Yi Qing Luo would completely fall into a state of losing control. At that time, it was very likely that everyone in the barrier would be slaughtered. It didn't matter if he killed students from other academies, but if they hurt the people in the devil class. After Yi Qing Luo regained consciousness, she would probably not be able to recover from this setback for the rest of her life. At this time, DMO Xian, that kid, was actually not around. If DMO Xian was here, he would definitely have a way to wake Yi Qing Luo up. Where did the profound yin qi that controlled Yi Qing Luo come from? Why was he able to control Yi Qing Luo time and time again? Within the azure dew bracelet, Old Man Song anxiously scurried all over the ground. Roar! Clang, clang. Suddenly, a loud and clear tiger roar came from the sky. Immediately after, the cries of Scarlet Flame could be heard. Yi Qing Luo's murderous eyes instantly shifted towards the horizon. Chi-Chi and Chi-Yin were already locked in combat. Scarlet Flame's sharp claws viciously scratched Chi-Chi's charred fur. Chi-Chi howled and struggled to break free from the flames. It was fully capable of resisting, but he couldn't use his sharp teeth to face Chi-Yin. Chi-Chi's struggling body was reflected in Yi Qing Luo's pupils. Yi Qing Luo's pupils constricted as the murderous intent in her eyes gradually dissipated. Chi-Chi. She furrowed her brows and leaped up into the air. The figure suddenly appeared in front of Chi-Yin and Chi-Chi. With a flick of her wrist, the glowing flame fan condensed a ray of light. Before he could release it, he heard Chi-Chi let out a few soft whimpers. Yi Qing Luo's hand movements suddenly froze. Chi-Chi could not bear for her to hurt Chi-Yin. Even now, Chi-Yin, under the control of the curse, it is covered with cuts and bruises. It was still unwilling to hurt Chi-Yin. They were friends who had fought together since ancient times. Even if they were separated by tens of thousands of years, the feelings they had for each other in the past had not faded. Lass, Chi-Yin has signed a soul contract with you. Its soul has completely signed a contract with yours. Use the contract to awaken Chi-Yin. Old Man Song kept searching for a way in his mind and finally thought of a reliable way. When Yi Qing Luo heard that, her charming eyes stared fixedly at Chi-Yin for some time. Chapter 1648. The soul contract was the highest level of contract signed by magical beasts, mirage beasts, sacred beasts, and humans. As the master, Yi Qing Luo had the absolute right to use the soul contract to forcibly give orders to the contracted beasts, even sacred beasts. In front of the master who signed the soul contract, they had to obey the orders obediently. All along, although Yi Qing Luo signed the soul contract with Chi-Chi, but she had never used the function of the soul contract. She didn't think so much for a while. Chi-Yin still blocked the communication with her. Her consciousness couldn't touch Chi-Yan's brainwaves at all. She couldn't communicate with Chi-Yan at all. Girl, I will teach you how to forcibly awaken Chi-Yin. Next, listen to my instructions, listening to Old Man Song's teaching step by step. Yi Qing Luo stared at Chi-Yan's blood-red eyes. The glower flame fan hooked, the sharp blade, scratched her finger. A drop of blood dripped from her finger. She flicked her fingertips. That drop of blood flicked on Chi-Yan's forehead. That drop of blood, in a shining red phoenix feather, left no trace at all. But the next second, Chi-Yan's claws clutching Chi-Chi's fur suddenly loosened. From its mouth came a mournful cry. Roar, roar. Chi-Chi stabilized its body in pain, raised its tiger eyes, and looked nervously at Chi-Yin. Yi Qing Luo gave Chi-Chi a reassuring look. Immediately, staring at Chi-Yan's red eyes, her voice was full of tension. Chi-Yin, listen to my command. stop the pollution of the flames. Clang, 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 clang. Qian screamed mournfully. The huge figure, like a running fire in the sky, constantly in the sky, hovering in pain. However, Yi Qing Luo's voice was getting louder and louder. Every word was heavier than the last, and the force behind it was even heavier. Qian's screams became more and more mournful. Chi remembered that the beast's eyes kept chasing Qian's figure, until the speed of Qian's hovering became slower and slower. Clang! Qian's mouth issued a low cry. That scarlet beast eyes blinked and finally focused on Yi Qing Luo. Ugly woman, what are you doing? A familiar tone, a tone that deserved a beating. Chi let out a low roar and rushed forward, rubbing his head against Qian's body. F***CK. You? What the hell are you? My little white, how can you how? Qian was first approached by a group of burnt things, and his face suddenly showed a look of disgust. After sensing Chi's aura, Qian's eyes suddenly widened, especially after seeing the smell of burnt hair on Chi's body. The scarlet eyes of the beast were filled with disbelief. His aura was still lingering on Chi. To be able to burn Chi's fur to such a state, apart from its vermilion bird flames, no other beast, no one else could do this. It hurt Chi, but why didn't it have any memories? Scarlet flame, purify the pollution of the flames. A clear and cold voice with a hint of command. Qian was not angry, but turned to look at Yi Qing Luo in astonishment. Raging flames? It actually used flames to pollute people's hearts? Listening to the sounds of fighting and killing from below, Qian's vision looked towards the ground. The students from the various academies and devil classes students were fighting bitterly. Obviously, those students had been polluted by its flames. What on earth was going on? Chapter 1649. What you've done, Chi will tell you later. Yi Qing Luo's voice was as cold as ice. Now, purify everyone immediately. Yi Qing Luo's tone made Qian extremely unhappy. But thinking that it had done so many things out of the blue, it didn't even know what it was doing. Qian's arrogance weakened. Following that, it spread its wings. A raging flame spread across the entire area. Those 1,000 over students gradually regained their consciousness under the purification of the flame. All the students from various academies were in a dazed state. What are we doing? Pain, pain, pain. Who the hell hit me? It hurts. Devil class. Are you looking for an internal strife? Why did you hit me for? Momentarily, the entire area was in an uproar. Hearing the students from various academies speaking up, devil classes students heaved a sigh of relief. If they continued to exhaust their energy, they really couldn't hold on any longer. Even if their bodies were made of iron, they were still human. F***K. What happened? Why did it turn into this state? What a disgusting blood stench. Why are there so many corpses on the ground? And they're all body parts. Is the flame nest going to collapse? I can't even stand properly. There's no place to land at all. The students who had regained consciousness looked at everything around them. One by one, the young faces revealed an astonished expression. To them, the bloody scene in front of them had already exceeded their imagination. Devil classes students explained what had happened earlier in a concise manner. When the students from various academies heard that, they looked towards the circling red flame in the sky. They were unable to recall what had happened earlier. Looking at the ground, there were still several hundreds of students who had been knocked out. What the devil class students said was not far from the truth. It was all true. The students looked exhausted, and their bodies were filled with big and small injuries, as they felt increasingly guilty. If you feel sorry for us, then kill these people from the dark forces. A chilly voice, carrying an irresistible majesty, descended from the sky. Yi Qing Luo was like a noble queen, overlooking everything below her. Her devastatingly beautiful face was solemn and cold. Her charming eyes were filled with a cold glint. Just by looking at it, one would feel a chill down one's spine. The students of the various academies instinctively looked at the dozens of darkness enforcers and darkness protectors not far away, their faces filled with fear and dread. A holy technique and a pharaoh. Both of them had slipped away. As for them, small fries, they were thrown here. Sacred wolf and pharaoh, he could easily leave the barrier in this area. But they could not leave. If it was before, when these dark ones and dark protectors faced these more than 1,000 students, they couldn't help but tremble in fear. It would never be empty. If it had been someone else, they would have died. Even if another 1,000 people came, they wouldn't be afraid. However, among this group of people, there was a bunch of freakish students among freaks. There was an even more perverted commander. One must know that just now, more than 400 of them, as well as more than 100 Dark Guardians, were unable to gain any advantage against this group of students. Not to mention now, what are you afraid of? Just now, under the contamination of the vermilion bird's raging flames, their physical strength has long been exhausted. Aren't they just 700 or 800 students who haven't even grown their hair? We're not empty. The few Dark Protectors' words made the rest of the Dark Ones ignite their battle intent. What they said was true. They would die if they fought. They would also die if they didn't. Chapter 1650. The people from the Dark Forces raised the weapons in their hands as they fought against the students from various academies. 800 over students, although they had expended quite a bit of energy after being contaminated earlier. But after their minds were contaminated by the blazing flames, right now, they were filled with hatred towards these dark forces who wanted to take away their lives and souls. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's icy cold words, they didn't have any fear at all. Looking at the dark forces, they were still arrogant and wanted to kill them. Each student was braver than the other. The entire area, which was surrounded by the array barrier, was filled with battle cries. The sky was filled with blood, and the thick stench of blood filled every corner of the air. After those students regained their senses, they saw the ground full of blood and corpses. By now, they were already immune to blood. Instead, it was the stench of blood. This stimulated the lofty sentiments in these youngsters' hearts. The reason why they entered the academy. The reason why they joined the academy exchange. The reason why they followed Master Gui Wu to the blazing flame nest. It was because they wanted to become strong. They wanted to possess absolute ability. This kind of massacre was something that they would have to experience in the future. Ugly woman, can you keep your gaze away? Qian's arrogance was totally unable to rise. Its red beast eyes weakly swept a glance at Yi Qing Luo and immediately lowered its head in fear. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was filled with chilling intent as it revealed a thick, malevolent aura. As though, the next moment, she was going to kill it. Qian leaned towards Chi-Chi's side as his voice became weaker. I know, this matter is indeed my fault. As a sacred beast, I have fallen into the dark forces trap. The next time I meet the person who controls me, I will definitely cut him into pieces to vent your anger, all right? However, Qian's words didn't get any response at all. Yi Qing Luo's gaze was still as cold as ice. It was still the same, quietly staring at Qian. There was no emotion on her face, without any feelings. Even Chi-Chi, on seeing Yi Qing Luo in this state, felt a little apprehensive. Roar, roar. Chi-Chi moaned softly. Yi Qing Luo had no reaction at all. Qian's sharp mouth moved, but looking at Yi Qing Luo's appearance, he stopped what he wanted to say. Little White, don't you think that ugly woman is a little weird? It lowered its voice and whispered into Chi-Chi's ear. Chi-Chi let out a soft roar. It felt the same way. It couldn't help but wonder. Was the master in front of it really its master? The color of blood filled her eyes. A sea of scarlet. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood. The blood splattered on her body. Yi Qing Luo's long eyelashes trembled slightly. There was an inexplicable restlessness in her heart, as if it was urging her to do something. It seemed like he was urging her to kill everyone present. He enjoyed the pleasure of fresh blood brushing against his face. He enjoyed the pleasure of ending someone else's life and watching them beg for mercy under his hands. This kind of thinking made Yi Qing Luo's mind even more chaotic. Subconsciously, there was a voice calling her name. There was a voice that kept waking her up. Tell her. Her way of thinking was wrong. She knew that this restlessness was wrong. She wanted to suppress the restlessness in her heart. But the more she suppressed it, Chapter 1651. Found it. Found it. Suddenly, Old Man Song's anxious voice sounded in her mind. Yi Qing Luo forced herself to stay conscious. Found what? Old Man Song's voice was anxious and a bit excited, but more than that, it was worry and doubt. I saw the source of the profound yin qi in your body. The source of profound yin qi? These few words made Yi Qing Luo's consciousness sober up a bit. She suppressed the restlessness in her heart and took a deep breath. Where is it? She knew the reason why her current mood was so abnormal. It was precisely because of the inexplicable profound yin qi in her body that was causing mischief. As long as she knew the source of the profound yin qi in her body, she would remove that source. She would no longer be controlled by others. I investigated. The source of the profound yin qi is... Old Man Song paused and continued with some difficulty. Profound jade heart. Profound jade heart? Yi Qing Luo's brows wrinkled. The source of the profound yin qi was her profound jade heart. Profound jade heart had profound yin qi? Yi Qing Luo's slender white hand pressed on her heart. She could clearly sense that the profound jade heart nurtured in her heart was constantly releasing a steady stream of profound energy. She didn't sense the slightest trace of profound yin qi. If the profound heart was on her profound jade heart, she should be able to sense it immediately. When I first investigated, I couldn't believe it either. Old Man Song sighed lightly, but the source of the profound yin qi is indeed from your profound jade heart. It was no wonder that once Yi Qing Luo released her strength, she would receive the erosion and control of the profound yin qi, precisely because, at the same time, when Yi Qing Luo released her strength, she needed to operate the profound jade heart's power, and the profound jade heart's power, once it exceeded a certain level, this would cause the thread of mysterious yin energy hidden within the Xian heart jade to come out. Moreover, the profound yin qi hidden within the profound jade heart's technique was extremely brilliant. It was very likely that she used a dark curse to conceal the profound yin qi's aura. As Old Man Song explained his conjecture, he immediately continued. This old man's conjecture was also derived from your reaction today. Yi Qing Luo was now a sky profound first-grade cultivator. The profound energy in the profound jade heart was also extremely abundant. Because of this, the profound strength of the first grade of the sky profound realm was more or less able to suppress the profound yin energy of the darkness curse arts. This led to a huge change in Yi Qing Luo's temperament. He faintly felt the urge to be controlled. However, he was able to retract his consciousness in time. He wasn't completely controlled by the mysterious yin energy. However, even now, he was still able to suppress his control over the mysterious yin qi. But after a long time, after the outburst, it would be even more difficult to call back Yi Qing Luo's consciousness as compared to the previous control. But now, Yi Qing Luo's heart was filled with an extremely intense, killing intent. It was because the battles between the students of the various academies and the dark forces had stirred up the profound yin qi. Girl, you must calm down. Think of a way to break open the enchantment and leave this place. Old Man Song warned her seriously. His life was no longer in danger. Yi Qing Luo no longer needed to forcefully release her profound grade and use her profound qi. Her profound heart jade gradually stabilized, and that surge of profound yin qi would once again disappear into Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade. As long as she left this bloody area, Yi Qing Luo's consciousness could always rely on her willpower to pull through. Dark curse arts. Yi Qing Luo muttered these 4 words in a low voice. Suddenly, her charming eyes flashed slightly. A wisp of radiance flashed past her eyes. Chapter 1652. Lass, are you thinking of... Old Man Song's voice tightened. No, this is too risky. Yi Qing Luo's slender fingers clenched into a fist. Taking risks is to look forward to a better future. If she continued to passively accept the attacks and sneak attacks from the dark forces, she would definitely die. Sooner or later, she would fall into the hands of the dark forces. She was never a passive person who was controlled by others. Why not seize the opportunity, turning passivity into initiative? This hidden danger could be solved in one go. In the future, everyone would be happy. Your current ability is not enough to go head-on with the dark forces. Old Man Song admitted that Yi Qing Luo's thinking was right. However, such thoughts had to be based on reality. What kind of place was the underworld organization? Who are those people? That was a force that belonged to the lower realm, outside of the upper realm. It was a power that had been expelled by the heavenly Tao. Based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability, if she were to go head-on against the dark forces, it was like using an egg to smash a rock. Old Man Song, I understand your worries. Yi Qing Luo was very clear that this decision of hers was indeed a gamble with her life. If there were any accidents, it was very likely that she had died in the hands of the dark forces. But this is my only chance. The existence of the dark forces had always been a mystery. Even if it was a battle between the Imperial Palace and the Dark Organization, they had yet to find a real base of the dark forces. If Pharaoh, he was still nearby and used the dark curse technique to completely control her. She decided to beat him at his own game. If she pretended to be obsessed with sex, she would allow Pharaoh to bring her to the base camp of the dark forces. As long as he knew the exact location of the underground forces through the profound Phoenix Ring, she told DMO Xian the exact location. DMO Xian would be able to lead the Imperial Palace's disciples to attack the dark forces in one fell swoop. The dark forces had lost many people in the fire lair. Holy Wolf and Pharaoh, he were also heavily injured. At this moment, it was the easiest time for the dark forces to be defeated. As long as there were no accidents, they would definitely be able to annihilate the dark forces. This was a method that would solve everything once and for all. Yi Qing Luo had to try. You're acting recklessly. Have you ever thought about your brothers? Have you ever thought about DMO Xian? Old Man Song knew that once Yi Qing Luo had decided on something, it would be hard to change her mind. His heart was burning with anxiety, but he didn't know how to stop Yi Qing Luo. He could only pull out that group of people from the World Group and DMO Xian. Yi Qing Luo's gaze became even more resolute. It's precisely because I hope that everyone can be safe and sound and live well that I must think of a way to completely resolve this hidden danger. Every time, she would be passively attacked by the dark forces. Time and time again, she made the people around her risk their lives for her. She really didn't want to see such a thing happen again. Especially, she did not want to do something that she would regret for the rest of her life after being controlled by the mysterious Enchi. This time, she was able to forcefully suppress the agitation of the mysterious Enchi. But what about next time? Could she still be so lucky? Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to bet on this unknown possibility. Instead of worrying and being afraid, it will be better to settle this once and for all. Old Man Song let out a heavy sigh. This old man knew that girl. In the end, he still agreed. This old man more or less knows a little about dark spells. If you insist on taking the risk, this old man will help you. Yi Qing Luo's face was tainted with a smile. Immediately, she focused and recalled Qi Yin, and she drew back into the pet space. Chapter 1653. Yi Qing Luo's movements attracted the attention of the Devil class's students. Long Yunjan immediately flew over as his azure blue eyes were filled with worry. Qing Luo. His words had just opened his mouth. An extremely piercingly cold wind brushed past his eyes. Yi Qing Luo's fingers were like claws as she struck towards Long Yunjan's face. Long Yunjan was stunned as he had yet to regain his senses. That palm had coincidentally landed on Long Yunjan's chest. It directly sent Long Yunjan flying with one palm strike. Devil Class and the others who were following closely behind held onto Long Yunjan as their faces were filled with astonishment. Qing Luo, what are you doing? Yi Qing Luo didn't reply them. Her clear and charming eyes were extremely icy cold. She looked at them coldly as her voice was hoarse and her words were unusually loud and clear. I want all of you to die. Long Yunjan's face turned pale. Those Devil Class's students' expressions also changed. Has Qing Luo's mind been contaminated by the vermilion bird's raging flames? What's wrong with Qing Luo? Right from the start, I felt that Madame Qing Luo was a little strange. She even hit the class monitor. Her mind must have been contaminated. Devil Class's students were filled with anxiety. Class monitor, what should we do? Vermilion Bird is Madame Qing Luo's war pet. How can we awaken Madame Qing Luo? Long Yunjan, who had been struck by that palm, kept staring at the expressionless Yi Qing Luo, who was filled with murderous intent. Suddenly, his azure blue eyes flashed slightly. He raised his hand and stopped the Devil Class's students from asking questions. Long Yunjan's prestige as the class monitor had not diminished because of Yi Qing Luo's existence. He had just raised his hand. The Devil Class's students who were whispering behind him immediately shut their mouths. Stay further away from her. Long Yunjan's icy cold voice rang. Devil Class's students were all stunned. Right now, Yi Qing Luo obviously looked like something was wrong. Shouldn't they be thinking of ways to recall Yi Qing Luo's mind? Abandon Yi Qing Luo and stay further away from her? Wasn't this the meaning of abandoning Yi Qing Luo? Devil Class's students frowned as they couldn't listen to Long Yunjan's words and stay further away from Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo's cold gaze swept past the group of students. Her pink lips curled up slightly. A cold arc blossomed on her face, revealing an extremely flirtatious yet murderous smile. Her palm wind moved, attacking towards Long Yunjan's direction once again. Retreat! Long Yunjan bellowed as he led the Devil Class students to retreat quickly. At this moment, the students from the various academies who had finished dealing with the remaining dark forces were stunned when they saw this scene. It wasn't easy for him to survive in the face of death. Why was it Yi Qing Luo being contaminated and losing her rationality again? Yi Qing Luo's attack was still continuing, but every time, the Devil Class's students would coincidentally avoid it. After a few rounds of pursuit, Yi Qing Luo stopped her attacks. His cold eyes were filled with dense, killing intent. Die, all of you must die. That hoarse voice was extremely loud. The faces of the Devil Class students gradually turned pale. Listen to class monitor. Let's leave this place first. Yin Shaoyi took a look at Yi Qing Luo's chilly expression and looked at Long Yunjan. She clenched her teeth, not knowing what was going on with Yi Qing Luo. It was better to listen to Long Yunjan first and stay away from Yi Qing Luo. Otherwise, if Yi Qing Luo hurt any one of them, by the time Yi Qing Luo regained her consciousness, she would definitely be like Long Yunjan, continuing to feel guilty. Devil Class's students hesitated for some time. In the end, they still left Yi Qing Luo's boundary. Chapter 1654. Haha. Yi Qing Luo has already been controlled by us dark forces. If we can't live, then all of you can forget about living too. Yi Qing Luo, that pervert, she will absolutely avenge us dark forces, killing all of you bunch of young lads. Ha ha ha. What kind of feeling is it to be killed by someone you trust? Those few people from the dark forces who were still alive saw Yi Qing Luo's state, and all of them ran toward her direction as though they were escaping for their lives. Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade used a dark secret method to seal the profound enrich. The entire dark forces knew about this matter. At this moment, seeing Yiqing Luo actually laid her hands on their own brothers, they knew this was absolutely because of the profound enrich in Yiqing Luo's body. That also meant that Yiqing Luo was now one of them. With Yiqing Luo, that pervert around, this bunch of young lads would definitely die. But those few people from the dark forces had just dashed in front of Yiqing Luo. They saw Yiqing Luo's fingertips dancing. Like an excited spirit, a red glow flashed past her slender fingertips. The glower flame fan stirred up thousands of waves as it struck towards those few people from the dark forces. Those people had barely escaped from the siege of those students after experiencing a narrow escape from death. At this moment, all their thoughts were on Yiqing Luo. Who would have expected that Yiqing Luo would actually make a move against them? Those few people from the dark forces had yet to react. Bursts of powerful, profound energy had already landed on them. They were like numerous sharp blades that surged like the tide and devoured everything about them. They didn't even have time to make a sound. Those few people from the dark forces fell limply onto the ground. Blood spurted out and they lost their breath. The students stared at this scene as their faces alternated between green and white. They had clearly heard what the people from the Dark Coalition had just said. Yiqing Luo had already been controlled by the dark forces. That meant to say, Yiqing Luo would kill them. But why did Yiqing Luo kill those people from the dark forces? Die! Die! All of you must die. That hoarse voice was monotonous and emotionless. Yiqing Luo's eyes didn't have any radiance. His eyes were empty and cold as he stared forward. It seemed like he had really lost his mind. The faces of the students turned paler and paler. He wanted to escape, but there was a barrier set up here. They had no way out. Yiqing Luo. Devil Class's students were filled with worry as they stared at Yiqing Luo's expressionless face, feeling heartache. They were burning with anxiety. But there was no way to awaken Yiqing Luo's consciousness. What should they do? What should he do? You can't do anything to your own brothers, even if you've already been controlled. Suddenly, a deep and cold voice filled with dense murderous intent was heard from Yiqing Luo's back. Just as the voice rang out, a figure appeared out of nowhere. That figure was extremely fast, bringing along an extremely turbulent, profound chi. He directly attacked in the direction of the Devil Class students. Then let me personally deal with this group of people. As his voice fell, Devil Class's students only felt a gust of cold wind brushing against their faces. Then, a terrifying aura came crashing down from the sky. Oh no! Get out of the way! Chapter 1655. Yin Xiao immediately activated the power of her profound jade heart. Releasing all of her profound energy, she opened up a protective barrier. A mere earth profound practitioner dares to block this sacred technique? Wolf Saint Technique sneered disdainfully, not putting Yin Xiao Yi's protective barrier in his eyes. The movements of his hands didn't stop at all. Thick, profound energy, swift and fierce attacks. Xiao Yi. A panicked voice reverberated through the earth. Immediately, a figure was seen, rushing over. Following that figure's sprint, the surrounding air, suddenly, like flowing water, appeared with faint waves. Layer upon layer, slowly stacked higher. Just as Wolf Saint Technique's attack fell. Boom! That turbulent air, in a split second, turned into a huge wave, surging high up. The violent, profound energy revealed a terrifying power that made one's heart tremble. With a scream, Wolf Saint Technique spat out a mouthful of blood. His body, under that wave of air, flew backwards, landing heavily on the ground. Wolf Saint Technique rolled a few times on the ground, finally crashing into a huge rock. The wound on his back that hadn't healed yet, and a new injury, fresh blood, instantly dyed the ground under Wolf Saint Technique. But at this moment, no one paid attention to the direction of Wolf Saint Technique. Everyone's gaze was focused on the Devil class students. In front of the Devil class students, a youth dressed in a green and white uniform, tightly hugging a slender girl. Both arms tightly wrapped around her waist. That muscular body slightly trembled. His entire body was emitting a terrifying aura. Who was that? Students from the Devil class? The students of the various academies were filled with curiosity, and Yin Xiao Yi, who was tightly hugged, at this moment stiffened on the spot. Her body tensed up. Her breathing suddenly stopped. Between her nose lingered that familiar scent that made her about to cry. Xiao Jin. It's Xiao Jin. He's back. Back to her side. Both hands subconsciously wrapped around his waist. Bit by bit tightened, until her body completely rubbed into his embrace. Are you stupid? Whenever I'm not by your side, you do stupid things. However, this tenderness did not last for long. Yin Xiao Yi heard the man's angry voice. Xiao Jin pried Yin Xiao Yi's body apart. His eyes filled with rage as he glared at her fiercely. Who do you think you are? An impregnable fortress? You're only at the Earth Profound realm, and you want to use your own body to fight the Wolf Saint technique head-on? The more he spoke, the more furious his voice became. The slender fingers on Yin Xiao Yi's shoulder gradually increased their strength. Yin Xiao Yi furrowed her brows in pain as she sucked in a breath of cold air. This pain also caused Yin Xiao Yi's consciousness to gradually regain clarity. His rebuke. She heard it all. He felt that it was extremely ridiculous. Yin Xiao Yi's heart, which had been agitated because of Xiao Jin's return, gradually calmed down and calmed down. Xiao Jin did not return to her side. Xiao Jin did not belong to her. Closing her eyes, the expression on Yin Xiao Yi's face had already recovered its usual calmness. Whether I'm stupid or not, and what I want to do, has nothing to do with you. She looked up and met Xiao Jin's eyes. Maybe the timing of his appearance was too coincidental. Or maybe the current backlight was too coincidental. Xiao Jin's unprepossessing face was reflected in Yin Xiao Yi's pupils. He actually appeared to be extremely tall and handsome. That deep contour faintly revealed a suffocating handsomeness. She was stunned. Chapter 1656. After a while, Yin Xiao Yi retracted the absent-mindedness in her eyes. She despised herself in her heart. Even at this moment, she still had feelings for Xiao Jin. Obviously, that face totally did not fit her aesthetic standards. Obviously, she had already decided from the bottom of her heart not to have feelings for him. But the moment she saw Xiao Jin, her heart that had been quiet for a long time, messed up, completely messed up. Ever since that day, when Xiao Jin saw Shi Shanglan's investigation information, he was alone, as though he had vanished from the face of the earth. He left just like that. Had he ever thought about her feelings? Had he ever thought about the feelings of the students in Devil class? Even in the flaming lair, such a dangerous place. He had never appeared. Until now, when he finally appeared here. So, sorry. Xiao Jin looked at that pair of calm, beautiful eyes, and a dull pain surged from the bottom of his heart. His reprimanding expression, the anger in his eyes, suddenly disappeared. His hands froze. He quickly let go of Yin Xiao Yi's waist. Then he took a few steps back, widening the distance between them. When Xiao Jin's apology fell into Yin Xiao Yi's ears, it was like a sharp needle, fiercely stabbing into her heart. He couldn't wait to leave her side, not daring to have any contact with her. It was more like he was mocking her feelings for him, mocking that she hadn't fallen for him. She was really a fool, a complete and utter fool. This man, he had never loved you from the start. Why bother? Really, why did you have to do this? Closing her eyes, she forced the tears that welled up in her eyes down. Yin Xiao Yi's breathing gradually calmed down. Following that, she opened her eyes again, her gaze calm. Why are you here? A large number of people from the dark forces are already rushing towards this direction. I followed the overlord here. Xiao Jin clenched his fists, trying his best to make his voice sound calm. He couldn't show a little. His heart ached because of Yin Xiao Yi's coldness. Yin Xiao Yi's alienation towards him. Wasn't this the result he wanted? He took a deep breath softly. Let's leave the flaming lair first. Not only this place, there are arrays set up. The entire flaming lair has signs of arrays. Dizun, Yin Xiao Yi's eyes lit up. Now is not the time to worry about love affairs. Yiqing Luo had yet to regain her senses. The Overlord was here, and he would definitely be able to awaken Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiao raised her hand and pushed Xiao Jin away. His gaze swept across the surroundings. Sure enough, they saw a man in shimmering purple clothes, who looked like a banished immortal, walking over quickly. DMO Xian was extremely fast. Without any pause, he headed straight towards Yiqing Luo's direction. But before he was able to stretch out his hand and pull Yiqing Luo into his embrace, when he met with Yiqing Luo's chilly eyes, his footsteps slowly came to a halt. He and Yiqing Luo stood face to face. Their eyes met. No one spoke. Master Dizun, Qing Luo has lost her senses, and only you can wake her up. Yin Xiao Yi said anxiously. The following words were stuck in his throat. She saw that behind DMO Xian, there was a jade-green figure following closely behind. Wind chimes. Feng Ling was actually following beside DMO Xian. Recalling that not long ago, this Feng Ling brought along the Imperial Palace's granny to kill Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiao, he was extremely hostile towards Feng Ling, the enchantment here. Only Feng Ling can break it. DMO Xian's gaze was still on Yiqing Luo. Yin Xiao blinked. The Overlord was explaining to her. Chapter 1657. Hearing that extremely calm explanation, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. The cold glint in her eyes wavered for a moment. By her ears, DMO Xian's explanation seemed to be reverberating. He directly called Feng Ling by her name. It wasn't like before, calling her Xiaoling intimately. Was it because the reason why the Imperial Palace's granny wanted to kill her? This sweet throbbing didn't last for too long. Yiqing Luo's heart suddenly thumped. Xian, why was he here? He was here. Would he stop her plan? Xian definitely wouldn't bear for her to take the risk. If he knew her decision, he would definitely stop her. No way. She couldn't let Xian see her abnormality. Overlord, those unimportant people are not important. What's important is, Yin Xiao Yi's vision returned to Yiqing Luo. The Dark Forces said that Qing Luo had already been controlled by the Dark Forces. If we don't wake her up, we won't be able to control her. Hearing Yin Xiao Yi's anxious words, Yiqing Luo had a feeling of King, that husky. She wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She knew that Yin Xiao Yi was worried about her, worried from the bottom of her bones. But could she not let DMO Xian put his attention on her at this moment? She couldn't let go of such a good opportunity. Just at this moment, Gui Wu, Zhou Mo, and 100 over elders from the main academy rushed over. Seeing the bloody scene and the various academies' students covered in blood, they all had a fright. Momentarily, the entire blazing flame nest fell into chaos. This was the chance. Yiqing Luo clenched her fists tightly as she took a deep look at DMO Xian's direction. Suddenly, she turned around and leapt. That slender figure swiftly merged into the air and disappeared. Devil Class's students chased up to her. Madam Qing Luo, you won't be able to catch up. Stay here and cooperate with the main academy's investigation. DMO Xian's long peach blossom eyes squinted slightly. A chilly intent flashed in his eyes. I'll go. His words had just ended when his sleeve was tugged by someone. Feng Ling's timid face appeared in his eyes. Brother D, Her words had yet to leave her mouth. DMO Xian had already flung Feng Ling's hand away in extreme disgust. There was a cold glint in his eyes. Feng Ling, there are many things that I don't say, but it doesn't mean that I don't know. Your aura is on the Dark Forces barrier. You were the one who set it up. Wendling's face turned pale. Her delicate body trembled slightly. Beiyuan. DMO Xian's voice was tense and cold. A black figure appeared from the darkness. Tang Beiyuan stood respectfully beside Immerse. Bring Fengling back to the Imperial Palace and guard her strictly. Without my orders, no one is allowed to get close to her, Immerse said coldly. After a pause, his gaze turned slightly cold. Including Grandma. Yes. Tang Beiyuan's expression was cold and stern. Once he said that one word, he suddenly brought out a chain from his sleeves, and without another word, he bound Fengling tightly. Those were profound ice shackles. It was a chain made of indestructible ice. There was no way to untie this chain at all. Fengling immediately panicked. With a sobbing tone, she shouted pitifully, "Brother D," but Tang Beiyuan didn't give Fengling a chance to continue speaking. Holding the end of the chain, she hung Fengling and flew out of the blazing flame nest. Chapter 1658. Yiqing Luo's speed was extremely fast. In just a moment, she was already at least 1,000 meters away from that area. She concealed her presence and stopped in her tracks. She knew that Immerse would definitely chase up to her. She had to get Pharaoh He to bring her to the Dark Force's main camp before Immerse chased up to her. Her guess was indeed right. Pharaoh He and Wolf Saint Technique had just used the Dark Curse to escape from her line of sight. But they didn't go far. Wolf Saint Technique's coincidental appearance. It confirmed her guess. She pretended to be controlled by the profound enrich and lost her mind. She intentionally made a move on the Devil class's students. It was to let Pharaoh He who was hiding in the dark know that she was indeed controlled by the profound enrich. Earlier, Wolf Saint Technique's appearance. It was probably to test her. If she wasn't affected by the profound enrich, she definitely wouldn't let Wolf Saint Technique hurt the Devil class's students. If she stopped it, Pharaoh He would definitely use the same curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away. Luckily, Immerse and Gue Wu rushed over in time. Before she made a move, they stopped Wolf Saint Technique's attack. This was considered as God approving of her plan. Yiqing Luo released her senses to the maximum as she carefully sensed the movements in the surroundings. She remembered the direction where Pharaoh He used his curse to bring Wolf Saint Technique away was this direction. Earlier, after Wolf Saint Technique was sent flying by Qiao Jin, he took the opportunity to escape in this direction. The people from the Dark Forces were definitely here. In the dark, two pairs of eyes were staring unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo, who was wandering around in the dense forest. Wolf Saint Technique's face was extremely pale due to excessive blood loss. Yiqing Luo, that little slut is sinister and cunning. Are you sure? She is really controlled by your Pharaoh's secret technique? Pharaoh He shot a disdainful glance at Wolf Saint Technique. Of course. The secret technique which I used was personally imparted by his lordship. There's absolutely no possibility of any accident. Isn't the spirit assimilating array still destroyed? Wolf Saint Technique snorted in disdain. Pharaoh He's face sunk. This Pharaoh will make you convinced. Saying that, he gathered his mental power and formed a hand seal as he stared at Yiqing Luo's figure, spitting out one obscure curse after another. There's movement. The minute Pharaoh He's mental energy appeared, Yiqing Luo acutely sensed the fluctuation in the air. Her expression instantly turned solemn, just as he was thinking of following the ripples in the air to search for Pharaoh He's location. Old Man Song's voice immediately sounded in her mind. Lass, Pharaoh He is testing you. When Yiqing Luo heard that, she searched for the fluctuation in the air and stopped her counter-detection of Pharaoh He's position. Maintain your murderous state and be a bit crazier, Old Man Song reminded. Yiqing Luo's reaction was extremely quick. Pharaoh He was hiding in the dark and wanted to use a secret technique to test if her profound heart jade had really been contaminated by the profound enrich. She stopped in her tracks. His entire body suddenly released an extremely strong, murderous aura. A pair of murderous eyes fiercely swept across the surroundings. She raised her hands, clenched fists and swung at the air. It seemed extremely crazy. Kill. I want to kill him. Kill all of you. Kill all of you. Yi Qing Luo was like a headless fly, spinning crazily on the same spot. Pharaoh, he who was in the dark, saw Yi Qing Luo's crazy performance and glanced at Wolf Saint Technique complacently. How is it? Are you convinced? Wolf Saint Technique pursed his lips tightly. Chapter 1659. Yi Qing Luo's heart was on the verge of collapsing. In order to sneak into the dark forces, she really put in a lot of effort. She could even act the role of a crazy lady. This acting skill was comparable to those movie queens. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but praise herself. Just as Yi Qing Luo was cursing in her heart, her face was still maintaining a crazy state. Suddenly, her ears twitched. Her heart constricted. It was Ah Xian. He had indeed caught up. Damn Pharaoh he. Where on earth were they hiding at? She had already acted so well, but still refused to show herself. If Dmo Xian discovered her, her plan to sneak into the dark forces would fail. Perhaps the heavens had heard Yi Qing Luo's wailing. Or perhaps Pharaoh, he had also sensed Dmo Xian's approach. Just as Dmo Xian's presence was getting closer, Yi Qing Luo only felt her body being sucked toward the direction by an extremely strong suction force. Following that, she was grabbed tightly by a strong palm. A thick and nauseating profound inchi lingered around her nose. Yi Qing Luo's eyes shone. It was Pharaoh he. You really pulled this slut over. Wolf Saint Magic's tone didn't conceal his disgust towards Yi Qing Luo. Pharaoh, he slanted a glance at him sarcastically. Only trash like you would worry about this and that. This Pharaoh's secret method has never failed before. The Holy Wolf technique was just lip service. In his heart, he already believed it a little. He moved his mouth and finally spat out a few words. Let's go back. Pharaoh, he didn't continue arguing with Wolf Saint Magic. His fingers formed a hand seal as he swiftly recited a string of incantations. Yi Qing Luo's four limbs were weak as she hung on Pharaoh he's hand. She suddenly felt her body shaking violently. Her vision turned black. When there was light again, Yi Qing Luo discovered that she was already at the entrance of a huge palace. At the entrance of the palace, two guards dressed in black cloaks immediately bowed respectfully when they saw them. Wolf Saint Magic, Pharaoh he. And they had just returned to the Dark Force's old nest. Pharaoh, he casually threw the heavily injured Wolf Saint Law to the ground. The two dark guards had long been accustomed to the open and secret fights between the Pharaoh and the elders. One of them stepped forward and helped the wolf up. Go get a doctor. Wolf Saint Law was quickly carried away. Whereas Yi Qing Luo was dragged by Pharaoh, as they walked directly into this luxurious palace. As one of the four great pharaohs of the Dark Faction, Pharaoh he enjoyed great prestige in the Dark Faction. Along the way, they greeted Pharaoh Crane respectfully. No one even placed their sights on Yi Qing Luo. After walking for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn, they finally stopped in front of a courtyard. Yi Qing Luo looked at the signboard in the courtyard. A row of words were outlined in black light. Crane Palace. Crane Palace. In other words, this was Pharaoh he's palace? Yi Qing Luo's vision had memorized all the details of the palace's surroundings into her mind. Perhaps it was because he was too confident in his secret technique. Pharaoh, he didn't doubt Yi Qing Luo at all. He shut Yi Qing Luo in a secluded little room in the Crane Palace and used a curse to lock the door tightly before leaving in a hurry. Dark Forces territory. Yi Qing Luo didn't dare to let her guard down just because Pharaoh he had left. Who knew if Pharaoh he was trying to test her again? Yi Qing Luo had been on high alert, maintaining the state of being controlled by him. Her nerves were stretched taut, not daring to relax. Chapter 1660. Yi Qing Luo calculated the time in her heart. Close to 6 hours had passed. It should be nighttime now. She didn't know if it was because of the curse that Pharaoh he had set on the door. Not a single sound could be heard from the surroundings of this small room. The surrounding was so quiet that it was a little scary. Yiqing Luo had been maintaining a battle state in the blazing flame nest for this period of time. Yiqing Luo was already mentally exhausted. After a long time, Yiqing Luo felt her eyelids getting heavier. Not long after, she fell into a deep sleep. But after Yiqing Luo fell into a deep sleep, it was just a few breaths' time, only to see the tightly shut door slowly opening. The person who entered the room was an extremely beautiful lady. That lady's vision was immediately fixed on the young lady's face who was sitting by the bed with her eyes closed. After seeing the young lady's stunning face clearly, the lady's pupils shot out a biting cold hatred. Yiqing Luo, I die, don't hurt my puppet. Pharaoh, he followed closely behind and stood in front of the beautiful lady. He held the lady's soft and fair hand as he stared fiercely at the person at the door. Lang Wastrel. It's said that this old man's secret art will absolutely not have any problems. Why must you waste my knockout drug? You only know how to be suspicious all day. No wonder you're unable to break through to the profound grade. Wolf Saint Magic sat on a wooden wheelchair, and behind him was a black-robed, slightly pale-looking Yiqing Qian. Wolf Saint Magic entered the room, and his gaze fell onto Yiqing Luo. After ascertaining that Yiqing Luo had indeed fallen into a deep sleep, Wolf Saint Magic then raised his malicious eyes and looked coldly at Pharaoh. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's because of your arrogance that led to the failure of this mission. Isn't the failure all because of you? Pharaoh, he harumphed coldly. If it wasn't for that troublemaker, how would the spirit assimilation array be destroyed? Yiqing Qian was criticized, and her body shrank slightly as she lowered her eyelids, not daring to say a word. Wolf Saint Magic patted the back of her hand lightly as his gaze turned cold. The spirit assimilation array was destroyed because there's a problem with your elder's ability. Just one Yiqing Luo completely messed up the plan which we had prepared for several months. You, Pharaoh, he was exasperated. He raised his hand and was about to rush forward to beat the Wolf Saint technique. All right, how old are the two of you? Every time you see each other, you won't let go. Are we still going to talk about business? The butterfly saintess couldn't take it anymore. She frowned, and her beautiful face was filled with annoyance. The butterfly's sacred technique shook off Pharaoh's hand and walked out of the room while swaying her slender waist. Pharaoh, he fiercely glared at Holy Wolf, then immediately put on a smile and followed behind Holy Butterfly. Good. I'll die. I won't argue with that old man. Let's talk business. Wolf Saint Technique, who was still in the room, narrowed his malicious eyes as his gaze stopped on Yiqing Luo for some time. He then lightly patted her hand. Let's go. Yiqing Qian responded obediently. As she pushed the Wolf Saint Technique away, Yiqing Qian glanced sideways at Yiqing Luo's direction. In her beautiful eyes, there was a trace of hatred and ruthlessness. She pushed the holy wolf out of the room. The door slowly closed again. In the room, it was silent once again. After a moment of silence, the young lady, who was originally leaning against the side of the bed and in deep sleep, her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Tightly, she opened her eyes. Chapter 1661. Yiqing Luo herself was an alchemist. She was extremely sensitive towards the smell of medicinal herbs. The moment the drowsiness hit her, Yiqing Luo realized that someone had drugged her. Hence, she beat them at their own game and pretended to fall asleep. From Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh's words, they must have something important to deal with, or perhaps they needed to discuss. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone through so much trouble to drug her who was already controlled by him. There were at least 5 people who entered the room. She heard Wolf Saint Dharma and Pharaoh's voices, and one Butterfly Saint Dharma, and one Yiqing Qian. And the last person, who was he? From the start till the end, that person had not spoken a single word. She remained silent for some time as she sensed that there wasn't any fluctuation in the surrounding air. She then quietly got up and slowly walked to the door. The last people to leave were Wolf Saint Dharma and Yiqing Qian. There wasn't any incantation on this room door. Yiqing Luo easily opened the room door. What entered her eyes was an extremely dark, long corridor. A few voices were heard from the next room. Yiqing Luo looked around to ascertain that there wasn't anyone guarding this long corridor. She silently recited the secret method which she had memorized in her heart. Her figure flashed in a blink of an eye. She had already silently appeared at the door of the next room. This was a blink movement secret method. It was extremely different from her own footwork. Blink movement secret method could achieve instantaneous movement under the condition of no aura fluctuation. And her set of footwork relied on one word: fast. The faster her footwork, the more violent the turbulence in the air. The group of people in the next room were all well-known figures from the dark forces. Any fluctuation in the air was unable to escape their senses. Yiqing Luo didn't dare to take the risk. Using the blink movement secret method, as long as the timing was stable, no one would discover it. Then no one would discover it. Nearing the door, she could clearly hear Wolf Saint Dharma's angry voice coming from the room. He trash. This plan was planned by me and that Heavenly Academy's trash director 2 months ago. For this plan, how much manpower and resources have I wasted? My Wolf Saint Dharma's forces have been annihilated. Wolf Saint Dharma slammed the table heavily. This is a foolproof plan. If it succeeds, we can escape completely. If it wasn't for the fact that your elder's party was so useless and couldn't even protect a formation, would this plan have failed? Do you still want to push all the blame to me? Useless Crane, let me tell you, the failure of the plan is a problem of your elder society's ability. It has nothing to do with me. Bang, bang, bang. There was the sound of things being rummaged through. Yiqing Luo made use of that explosion, and her fingers moved slightly opening that tightly shut window. Through the gap, Yiqing Luo saw Pharaoh. He overturned the table and pointed angrily at the Wolf Saint technique. This Pharaoh has exhausted all my energy to save you from Yiqing Luo's hands. Don't you dare to push all the blame for the failure of the plan on this Pharaoh. Lang Xingfa's face instantly turned ashen. His sinister eyes stared coldly at Pharaoh He, his eyes filled with killing intent. Help! This word completely provoked the Wolf Saint technique, especially to save him from that slut Yiqing Luo. Wasn't this indirectly saying that he wasn't even comparable to that silly lass Yiqing Luo? Chapter 1662. Pharaoh, he had specially emphasized the words 15 years old. Wolf Saint Magic's face darkened. His 5 fingers clenched the armrest of the wooden wheelchair, leaving a long mark. Pharaoh He, you're wrong. Yiqing Qian couldn't bear to see her lover get angry, so she caressed Wolf Saint Magic's chest and raised her beautiful eyes to look at Pharaoh He. The moment she opened her mouth, Pharaoh He stared at her in disgust. Who do you think you are? Just a slut who relies on spreading her legs to climb up. This Pharaoh and Saint Magic are talking. Do you have a right to interrupt? Saying that, he glanced at Wolf Saint Magic scornfully. You've been in the Dark Forces for such a long time, yet you still don't know the Dark Forces rules. This Pharaoh wants to see how long you can protect her. Yiqing Qian pursed her red lips as she lowered her head with reddened eyes. Wolf Saint Magic frowned and reached out to hold Yiqing Qian's hand. He trash. Do you only know how to shoot at women now? Enough. Both of you shut up. The beautiful lady, sitting in the corner, stood up irritably, quarreling over and over again. Just a few words. Is there any meaning in quarreling? I die. Don't be angry, I won't talk anymore. Pharaoh He immediately came forward attentively. Butterfly Saint Magic glanced coldly at Pharaoh He, then looked at Wolf Saint Magic. His lordship's seal is only lacking the last 2 hurdles before the seal can be completely lifted. Speaking of his lordship, the flames between Wolf Saint Magic and Pharaoh He were restrained. This time the plan to absorb a large number of souls has failed. The day of his lordship's lifting will be delayed for a period of time. Butterfly Saint Magic's words made the room fall into silence. This failure was not only about not being able to obtain a large number of souls. It had also completely exposed the dark forces' motive in Nirvana Realm. Nirvana Realm would also raise their vigilance and think of ways to resist the dark forces' attack. It would not be as easy as before for them to obtain a large number of clean souls of young cultivators. No matter which one of you wants to get away or push the blame to someone, when his lordship regains consciousness, you will all accept his lordship's punishment. The butterfly saint technique looked at the two of them. So, it's useless for the two of you to push the blame to each other. Pharaoh, he nodded repeatedly and answered yes. Anyone could tell that he was interested in the sacred butterfly technique from his attentive manner. The wolf saint lowered his head and did not refute. He did not refute, which meant that he agreed with the butterfly saint technique. Instead of debating whether it's right or wrong, why don't we carefully think about the cause and effect? Think clearly about why the soul assimilating formation failed. Suddenly, a clear voice that was as gentle as the wind resounded in the room. That voice entered Yi-Ching Luo's ears. Yi-Ching Luo's body instantly stiffened. A trace of astonishment flashed through her eyes. She focused her gaze and looked through the gap again, searching for the figure of the person who spoke. Sure enough, beside the sacred butterfly technique sat a man in a brown robe woven with gold. The man's face was like jade, and the corners of his mouth hooked into a cordial smile. He looked very much like a graceful young master. That face. Yi-Ching Luo was no stranger to it. Shi Clan's young master, Shi Shanglan, Yin Xiaoyi's fiancé. It was actually him. He was indeed related to the dark forces. He got close to Yin Xiao, indeed with ill intentions. Earlier in the room where she was locked up, the fifth person that she sensed was Shi Shanglan. What was the relationship between him and the dark forces? Chapter 1663. Young Master, she's right. Rather than arguing about right or wrong, why don't we find out the reason why our plan failed? The anger on Butterfly Saint Mage's face was immediately replaced by a smile. Her eyes were filled with affection as she looked at Shi Shanglan coquettishly. But Shi Shanglan didn't show any signs of being moved by her goodwill. Shi Shanglan's face was still gentle like water. The smile on his lips was distant, but not impolite. Pharaoh's face sunk slightly and revealed some displeasure. But he didn't flare up like how he did with Wolf Saint Mage. Instead, he suppressed his anger and echoed Shi Shanglan's words. Young Master Shi's words are reasonable. I can't be bothered to argue with that old man. This scene made Yi-Ching Luo, who was hiding in the corner to eavesdrop, felt slightly surprised. Weren't the dark forces divided into two factions? The Lord, who was also the King of Darkness, was the leader. Then there was the Guardian and Elder factions. Above the Guardian and Elder factions were the Saint Mage and Pharaoh. Yi-Ching Luo could see clearly how arrogant Pharaoh he was in the dark forces. It could be said that Pharaoh he was second only to one and above everyone else in the dark forces. His attitude toward Shi Shanglan was obviously respectful. Pharaoh he admired Butterfly Saint Mage. And Butterfly Saint Mage gave such an obvious, suggestive look to Shi Shanglan. Pharaoh he was actually indifferent. It showed that Pharaoh he didn't dare to become enemies with Shi Shanglan. What was Shi Shanglan's identity? Even Pharaoh he was afraid of him. The atmosphere in the house eased up a lot because of Shi Shanglan's words. Wolf Saint Mage remained silent for a long time before he spoke. Speaking of the reason why we failed, it made me think of something. His sinister eyes looked at Pharaoh he. Trash he, do you still remember what you swore when you set up the soul assimilation array? Old Wolf, do you still want to quarrel with me? Pharaoh he's face turned cold as he stared back at Wolf Saint Mage angrily. The Wolf Xingfa looked at him and said indifferently, you said that once the soul assimilating array is set up, no one in the Nirvana realm can destroy the formation eye of the soul assimilating array. So our people don't need to specially guard the formation eye. Otherwise, the location of the formation eye will be exposed. F*CK. Wolf Trash, do you have to F*King go against me? Come on, I'll accompany you. Pharaoh he rushed toward the Wolf Saint Law furiously. He stop right now. The butterfly's sacred technique reached out and grabbed Pharaoh Crane's collar, forcefully pulling him into the chair. You are not allowed to speak without my permission. Pharaoh Crane's face turned red. But looking at the serious expression on the butterfly saint technique's face, he could not help but shut his mouth. The butterfly's sacred technique looked at the wolf sacred technique. He is right. The soul-assimilating array is an ancient dark secret technique, a sinister technique that is not tolerated by the heavenly Tao. In a lower realm like the Nirvana realm, no one would know the method to destroy the array. She pondered for a moment, and a cold glint appeared in her beautiful eyes. Even if we find the eye of the formation, no one knows how to destroy it. What Wolf Saint technique means is, there are people from the lower realm helping Yi Qing Luo. Xishang Lan could tell what Wolf Saint technique was implying. As soon as these words came out, the four of them exchanged glances, and their faces instantly turned pale. Indeed, if there are no people from the lower realm helping Yi Qing Luo, how would Yi Qing Luo know how to use the blood of the caster to extinguish the array eye? If it wasn't for the fact that the people from the lower realm had told Yi Qing Luo the method to destroy the array, how is it possible for Yi Qing Luo to destroy this array so easily? Chapter 1664. Xishang Lan's expression instantly turned grave. His handsome brows frowned slightly. If there's no one from the lower realm to teach her, she shouldn't be able to find the location of the array eye. He paused for a moment as his gentle eyes swept past the few people in the room. That gaze was as gentle as the wind. However, the few of them felt an extremely cold glint in their eyes, that kind of chill that emanated from the bones. It made the few of them feel a thump in their hearts. Wolf St. Law's concerns, I will personally investigate clearly. If there's really someone from the lower realm around, Yi Qing Luo, I will return to the island and invite Father to leave the island. Upon hearing Xishang Lan's words, their faces instantly revealed a joyous expression. With young Master Shi's help, this matter will definitely be settled very quickly. Butterfly St. Law's eyes were filled with affection and admiration. Pharaoh, he looked at Butterfly St. Law's expression and shifted his gaze away unhappily. He clenched his fists and eased the tense expression on his face as he gave a flattering smile. Yes, 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 young Master, she is willing to help. Next time, our plan will definitely succeed. Butterfly St. Law snorted lightly as her tone couldn't conceal her disgust. Yi Qing Luo, that little slut, the speed of her advancement is so fast, it must be because of the person behind her. As long as we get rid of that person, what kind of waves can that little slut create? The few of them complimented again. Yi Qing Luo, who was squatting at the corner, frowned tightly. Xishang Lan addressed himself as young master earlier. What young master was referring to? The reason why these few Dark Forces leaders were so respectful towards Xishang Lan. It was probably because of the father behind Xishang Lan. What was Xishang Lan's identity? Just as Yi Qing Luo was deep in thought. In the room, Yi Qing Jian, who had been silent all this while opened her mouth softly. What if the person behind Yi Qing Luo is DMO Xian? The few people's compliments stopped abruptly. Several pairs of eyes turned towards Yi Qing Jian in unison. Wolf St. Law also glanced sideways at Yi Qing Jian, who was standing beside him as he frowned, as though he was annoyed with her for opening her mouth. Yi Qing Qian faced their gazes, and her expression remained unchanged. Her red lips curled upwards as a smile curled up as she spoke in a warm voice. Rumor has it that Yi Qing Luo and DMO Xian from the Imperial Palace have an intimate relationship. This point, I have indeed witnessed it with my own eyes. After a pause, she was satisfied to see the deep meaning in everyone's eyes. She then continued, Originally, my fourth sister had already dug away Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade, completely turning her into a waste. But unfortunately, on the day that her profound heart jade was dug out, she turned from a waste into a cultivator. Not only did she force me to retreat, Even that father of mine, Three Springs sex patriarch, wasn't Yi Qing Luo's opponent. Later on, I asked Yuchia about what happened that day. What's the matter? Butterfly Saint technique couldn't stand Yi Qing Qian's purposely keeping them in suspense, as she urged. Yi Qing Qian paused after each word. That day, Yi Qing Luo's profound heart jade was dug out, and she was forced to drink a strong medicinal soup. In the process of rebelling against Yuchia, she seized DMO Xian. Take DMO Xian hostage? How could this be? In this world, only their lord had this ability. Who could hold DMO Xian hostage? Chapter 1665. Xishanglon pondered for a moment, then slowly nodded. He recalled that after the interclass competition in the Heavenly Academy, when Yiqing Luo came to the Shi family's courtyard, there was a man who followed beside her. A man with a strong sense of presence. It should be DMO Xian. Other than DMO Xian, no one else had such a strong aura. If that person was really DMO Xian. In addition, the Imperial Palace had been attacking the dark forces during this period of time. Yi Qing Qian's words, 90%, were right. Everyone could see that. How much did DMO Xian care about Yi Qing Luo? I will return to the island first to investigate this matter. Xishanglan's expression was solemn. He stood up and cupped his fists at the few people. The few of them immediately stood up and sent Xishanglan to the door. Yi Qing Luo, who was at the door, immediately used her blink and returned to the room where she was locked up in the moment Xishanglan stood up. The sound of footsteps could be heard outside the door. Soon after, the footsteps gradually faded away. They should have sent him out of the Crane Palace. Soon after, the footsteps of a few people gradually approached. Yi Qing Luo leaned against the side of the bed and continued to pretend to be asleep. He could clearly hear a few people grumbling outside the door. They were all silently scolding Xishanglan for using his power to bully others. After grumbling for a while, the few of them passed by the room where Yi Qing Luo was locked up. Pharaoh's footsteps suddenly paused. Although the mission this time has failed, this pharaoh has brought back Yi Qing Luo, this profound heart jade's vessel. I believe that it can also remove the Lord over God's seal in advance. Wolf Saint technique scoffed lightly. Even if we make use of Yi Qing Luo's vessel physique to transfer profound energy to the Overlord God in advance, but to remove the seal, we still need a young and clean young man's spirit. As long as the Lord Master God's profound strength is replenished, he can temporarily wake up. When the time comes, we will naturally listen to our Lord arrangements and proceed with the next step of the plan. Pharaoh, he glanced at him coldly. What? Seeing that I, the Pharaoh, can make up for my mistakes, you feel unbalanced? We're all working for the Lord. What's the difference between you and me? The butterfly's sacred technique couldn't take it anymore and interrupted their argument. Ahi, your idea isn't bad. If we can make the Lord God awake for a short while, we'll be able to get instructions for our future actions. When Pharaoh Crane received the sacred butterfly technique's praise, he immediately went forward. Adai also thinks that my method is good, right? All right, I'll bring Yi Qing Luo, that slut, to the dark sacred region now to awaken the Overlord. As he spoke, Pharaoh Crane pushed open the tightly shut door. Yi Qing Luo's heart twitched violently. Darkness Sanctum? What is that place? She heard Pharaoh Crane's approaching footsteps. She could also smell the auras of those people who were already close to her. Yi Qing Luo calmed her breathing. She felt a hand reaching out to her. Suddenly, the Wolf Saint Law's voice came from the door again. The Darkness Sanctuary is the place where his lordship is sealed. Are you sure it's safe to bring her there? Even now, you still doubt my secret technique? Pharaoh, he was clearly enraged. Yi Qing Luo's profound jade heart had already been completely contaminated by the profound Yin Qi. Under his secret technique, there was no way for her to regain her senses. The Wolf Saint Law had repeatedly doubted if Yi Qing Luo was really controlled by Lao AI. Wasn't this questioning his ability? Chapter 1666. Pharaoh, he swiftly conjured a hand seal. One by one, complicated incantations were spat out from his mouth. Oh no, was he testing her again? She wasn't under Pharaoh he's control. How would she know what order Pharaoh he had given her? Yiching Luo immediately called out to Old Man Song in her heart. Last, quick, get up and kill Wolf Saint technique. Old Man Song's reminder rang in her mind. Yiching Luo heaved a sigh of relief. Following Old Man Song's instructions, her figure suddenly moved and sprinted towards Wolf Saint technique's direction. Her palms flipped, and her palm chi was like a rainbow. Slut! Wolf Saint technique's expression changed drastically as he raised his sleeves and waved out a burst of profound yin chi. Yiching Luo's figure paused as she slowly raised her head. A pair of charming eyes, empty and cold, without a single bit of emotion. Her pink lips trembled slightly. After a while, she spat out a hoarse but exceptionally clear word, kill. Following that, Yiching Luo wasn't afraid of death as she faced the profound yin chi of the Wolf Saint technique and once again attacked towards the direction of the Wolf Saint technique. Enough! Enough! Wolf Saint technique believes that Yiching Luo has been controlled by Tao Wu. Quickly stop! Yiching Qian saw that Yiching Luo was about to rush over. Her eyes flashed and suddenly rushed to the front of Wolf Saint technique's wooden wheelchair, helping Wolf Saint technique to block Yiching Luo's attack. Puffed. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Yiching Qian's mouth. Her body went limp as she fell into Wolf Saint technique's arms. Behind her, Yiching Luo looked at Wolf Saint technique expressionlessly, her gaze filled with murderous intent. Kill. Kill. Her body stiffened as she approached Wolf Saint technique once again. Wolf Saint technique hugged the injured lady in his arms tightly, his face ashen. Enough. I believe you. Pharaoh, he delightedly canceled his finger gesture and waved at Yiching Luo. All right, come back. Yiching Luo's attack stopped abruptly. She immediately turned around and walked to Pharaoh He's side as she stood upright. Now, I'll take her to the darkness sacred region. Do you still have any objections? Pharaoh, he looked at Holy Wolf's ashen face and was secretly pleased. No problem, no problem. I know that no one can surpass your secret skill except for his lord. Seeing that the flames of war between the two were about to ignite again, the butterfly's sacred technique immediately stepped forward and patted Pharaoh He's shoulder. Pharaoh Crane's face was filled with pride after obtaining the goddess' approval. However, Lang Shengfa's expression grew increasingly ugly. He raised his eyes. His sinister eyes were filled with a treacherous cold light. It was as if he wanted to teach Pharaoh He a lesson. Butterfly Saint technique was well aware of Yiching Qian's position in Wolf Saint technique's heart. She immediately pulled Pharaoh He's arm and said softly, I'll accompany you to bring Yiching Luo to the dark sacred region, with the company of a goddess. Naturally, Pharaoh Crane was overjoyed. Calling out to Yiching Luo, he happily followed behind the Butterfly Saint technique and left the room. Wolf Shengfa's face darkened as he lowered his head to look at the pale-faced woman lying feebly in his arms. There was a vicious look in his eyes. His slender fingers clasped Yiching Qian's lower jaw tightly. In front of this saint technique, you occasionally play some little tricks. This saint technique pampers you and allows you to do as you please, but his eyes turned cold. His fingers suddenly relaxed as he gently caressed her seductive face. The vicious look in his eyes became extremely thick at this moment. But if you dare to use your own body as a bargaining chip to please me, I will personally destroy this body of yours. Yiching Qian's petite body trembled slightly. A sliver of disbelief surfaced on her pale face. This sentence sounded like he was concerned about her body. He couldn't bear for her to get injured just to block his attack. But Chapter 1667. Along the way, Yiching Luo maintained her robot state, obediently following behind Pharaoh Crane. Pharaoh He's entire heart was placed on the Butterfly Saint technique, so he had no time to bother about Yiching Luo. As for Butterfly Saint technique, she was getting impatient from Pharaoh he's pestering, but on the surface, she still had to go along with a few sentences. She was slightly distracted and didn't pay much attention to Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo heaved a sigh of relief. If someone keeps staring at me, he would eventually give himself away. Before reaching the dark sanctuary, she could not let anyone know that she was not contaminated. Darkness Sanctum, the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. Girl, are you sure you really want to enter the Darkness Sacred Region? Old Man Song's voice was filled with worry. He knew that he had no way to persuade Yi Qing Luo to give up on this idea. But based on Yi Qing Luo's current ability, if something really happened, there was no way to escape. He still hadn't been able to cultivate a spiritual body, so he could only wait anxiously in the Azure Dew bracelet. If only he knew that this girl was such a troublemaker. Back then, he should have exhausted everything to cultivate the spirit body first. Even if I don't go in, I'm afraid I won't be able to leave. Yi Qing Luo replied in her heart. There was no turning back now that she had snuck into the underground forces. She had no other choice but to follow her original plan and keep moving forward. Moreover, her original intention was to take the opportunity to infiltrate the Dark Coalition and find out the location of the Dark Coalition's base. Now, there was a chance to enter the Darkness Sanctuary. It was even more impossible for her to give up this opportunity. The King of Darkness was currently sealed, and he did not have any strength left. If she were to do something to the Sanctuary of Darkness and ruin the King of Darkness' plan to remove the seal, it would be a heavy blow to the Dark Forces. This Darkness Sacred Region. Naturally, she had to go. That place is too dangerous. I'm worried that based on your current strength, you won't be able to handle it. Old Man Tsang naturally knew what Yi Qing Luo was planning. However, there was no such plan. There was only a 1% chance. If it was really that easy to foil the King of Darkness's plan to remove the seal, then the King of Darkness wouldn't be able to do so. The Dark Forces would not have had the chance to turn things around. Yi Qing Luo pursed her pink lips. Her slender fingers gently rubbed the profound phoenix ring on her fingertip. I'm not afraid. I believe. Xian will understand what I mean. Yi Qing Luo's heart felt a trace of warmth when she thought of that purple-robed man with peerless elegance. She believed in the feelings between Dmo Xian and her. Even if she said nothing, Dmo Xian would definitely understand. Ever since she was young, she had been brainwashed into thinking that she could only rely on herself in this world. She couldn't rely on anyone, even those old men from the Yi clan, even the old man who taught her all kinds of ultimate skills. She cannot be relied on. But to Dmo Xian, she wanted to rely on him. Stop, stop, stop. Old Man Song helplessly shook his head. This old man is worried about you. I don't want to get dog food from you. The word dog food, Old Man Song had learned it from Yi Qing Luo. You are still a person controlled by Pi. Don't show that kind of smile. If the people from the Dark Forces see it, all your plans will be ruined. Old Man Song reminded him. Indeed, now was not the time to show off their affection. Yi Qing Luo kept the emotions in her heart as she refocused her energy on the two people in front. Pharaoh He and Butterfly Saint Technique were still talking about something. Chapter 1668. After several twists and turns, they walked for more than an hour. Pharaoh, he finally stopped at an extremely secluded back mountain in the palace. Along the way, Yi Qing Luo had already formed a map of the surrounding terrain in her mind. And this secluded back mountain could be said. It was really secluded. If it wasn't for the fact that she was following behind Pharaoh He, she probably wouldn't even be able to find this place. Even if she found it, she would absolutely not link the Dark Sacred Region with this secluded back mountain. This place was actually the Dark Sacred Region where the King of Darkness was sealed. In order to conceal the Dark Sacred Region, the Dark Forces are really going all out. Old Man Song was extremely astonished. I didn't sense any profound in-chi fluctuations in the surroundings. The Dark Forces were able to develop their forces till now, even after the King of Darkness was sealed. And to think of ways to sneak into the Nirvana realm, This is enough to prove that the dark forces are not idiots. After hearing Old Man Song's words, Yi Ching Luo also understood why the dark forces wanted to use this desolate back mountain to conceal the dark sacred region. If the dark forces met with an ambush, even if the entire clan was annihilated, at least the King of Darkness was still alive. As long as the King of Darkness was still alive, once the seal was released, their dark forces would be able to step into development once again, stepping into the peak. You also know that they are not idiots, so you better be careful. If the dark forces find out, I won't be able to save you. Hearing Yi Ching Luo's tone, it was still that relaxed. Old Man Song sighed helplessly. Only this lass could maintain her composure the closer they were to danger. Ahi, as a saint technique, I don't have the right to learn the secret arts, so I can only send you here. Butterfly Saint Technique stopped in her tracks as she smiled at Pharaoh He. Pharaoh He grabbed Butterfly Saint Technique's little hand as he smiled. As long as Adai wants, I can teach you anything. The rules set by his lordship can't be broken. The Butterfly Saint Law patted the back of his hand coquettishly, winked, and said angrily, "All right, hurry up and lead that little slut in. I can't wait to see that little slut become food for the Lord." Pharaoh He took advantage of Butterfly Saint Technique's words again. At the same time, he hinted at the Butterfly Saint Technique ambiguously. He walked towards Yi Ching Luo and clasped her shoulders. Yi Ching Luo was in pain, but she forcefully endured the intense pain. Pharaoh He dragged him toward the deserted back mountain. As she stepped into the rear mountain, Yi Ching Luo clearly felt a cooling sensation brushing past her cheeks and body. Yi Ching Luo acutely discovered that when Pharaoh He walked up the rear mountain, his fingers had already formed a hand seal. This is a barrier? Yes, this kind of barrier is different from the traditional barriers that you normally encounter. Old Man Song promptly explained, this is a kind of dark barrier, a reverse barrier. Reverse bounded domain? What the hell is this? Barriers can be divided into several types. In other words, there is a reverse barrier set up in this back mountain. If you don't have the reverse spirit formation's secret technique, you won't be blocked like a traditional spirit formation when you step into the back mountain. Instead, the back mountain that you enter is truly just a back mountain. If you use the reverse spirit formation's secret technique to enter this back mountain, you will arrive at the real hidden place. Yi Ching Luo nodded her head in understanding. Looked like in order to enter the dark sacred region, she needed to know about this reverse spirit formation's secret technique. Then, how should Xian use the profound phoenix ring to find her? Chapter 1669. She was forcefully dragged along by Pharaoh He for about 1 incense's time. Yi Ching Luo felt that her shoulders were about to be torn apart. This old man was so gentle in front of the Butterfly Saint Technique, like a little wolf dog trying to please her. Facing her, he was so crude, not knowing how to be protective of the fairer sex. At least, her looks were several streets ahead of the Butterfly Saint Technique. At least, she was younger than the Butterfly Saint Technique. Why did this old man have to target her? Yi Ching Luo's heart was filled with grief and indignation. Under Pharaoh He's tugging, she entered the reverse enchantment, the real hidden place. The surroundings were strangely quiet. It was so quiet that only their footsteps could be heard. The surroundings were filled with a black fog, emitting a poisonous miasma. Between the breaths, there was an extremely thick smell of blood. The bright moon in the sky hung on the horizon, faintly discernible, but it wasn't clear. Instead, it added a strange atmosphere. Yi Ching Luo's gaze finally landed on the front. That was the end of a path filled with black brambles. At the end, there was a majestic palace made of black jade stones. The palace was surrounded by 12 pillars, representing the 12 constellations. And every pillar was engraved with sealing runes. The runes on the pillars were emitting a smooth jade glow, suppressing the black fog in all directions. Other than the strange black brambles, there was not a single blade of grass around. The heavens and earth were silent, as though only Yi Qing Luo and Pharaoh He were the only living people in this world. Yi Qing Luo looked at the surrounding 12 pillars. Then she looked at the palace in front of her. This was Dark Sacred Region, the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. When she saw this majestic palace, Pharaoh He's hand, which was pinching Yi Qing Luo's shoulder, slowly slid down. The expression on his face became extremely respectful. His entire being became more solemn. He lifted his feet and walked towards the palace. Yi Qing Luo followed closely behind. The two of them, one in front and one behind, followed the brambles on the ground as they walked into the palace. A thick smell of blood assaulted their senses. It was so thick that it made them nauseous. The surrounding black fog and miasma also gradually dispersed. Pharaoh Crane did not feel the atmosphere in the palace at all. His expression was solemn, and his eyes were filled with respect. With an incomparably devout heart, he walked at the front step by step. The interior of the palace was extremely spacious. The first thing he saw was a huge circular altar. Below the altar was a huge pit that occupied 2/3 of the palace. The pit was covered with a thin layer of silk cloth. No, that was not silk. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes as she stared intently at that silk cloth. If she wasn't wrong, it should be the thin frost formed by the 10,000-year-old ice on the 10,000-year-old ice mountain in the north of the Nirvana realm. This thin frost had lasted for tens of thousands of years. It absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the essence of the sun and moon. It never melts all year round. Yi Qing Luo had once heard that this 10,000-year-old cold ice had the ability to preserve corpses and prevent them from rotting forever. Who would have thought that the 10,000-year frost would be in the darkness sanctuary? What was covered by the thin frost? Yi Qing Luo wanted to take a closer look. Suddenly, he heard a loud thud beside his ear. Pharaoh He knelt down on the ground, facing that circular altar as he knocked his head hard onto the ground. Lass, don't be in a daze, follow suit and kneel down. Old Man Tsang immediately reminded her in her mind. Kneel down? Make her kneel down in front of the King of Darkness? Looking at Pharaoh He's devout, kneeling back view, Yi Qing Luo's eyes gradually turned cold. This place, there was only Pharaoh He alone. The King of Darkness was in the seal. If she were to kill Pharaoh He now, then she would ruin the King of Darkness's plan to remove the seal. Chapter 1670. Just as Yi Qing Luo was thinking of a series of plans, suddenly, he heard an unfamiliar voice that sounded like rustling leaves. Did you fail? Yi Qing Luo felt a chill down her spine. This voice was just 3 simple words, but it made Yi Qing Luo feel a terrifying aura. Yi Qing Luo instinctively reacted. This voice, it was the voice of the King of Darkness. Other than the King of Darkness, there was no other presence in the dark sacred region. Wasn't the King of Darkness sealed? Why could he still speak? Had she guessed wrongly? How could that be the voice of the King of Darkness? Numerous thoughts filled her mind. The next moment, Pharaoh He had already used his actions to express everything. Pharaoh He respectfully knelt on the ground as his voice trembled. My lord, I'm sorry, it's my incompetence to let a young lass destroy the spirit assimilation array. Indeed, that voice came from the King of Darkness. The person who is sealed could still speak. The King of Darkness is a being that roams above the lower realm and below the upper realm, not belonging to the 4 realms. Even if the King of Darkness is sealed, the consciousness of the King of Darkness still exists. Old Man Song's tone was extremely solemn and solemn. Lass, the power of the King of Darkness is far beyond your imagination. Even if the consciousness of the King of Darkness can't stay awake for too long, but to deal with you, it's more than enough. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. In the darkness, there seemed to be a pair of icy cold eyes staring at her without blinking. A chill spread from her feet all the way to the top of her head. Her entire body seemed to have been frozen into an ice cube. She congealed her senses and tried her best to maintain her state of being under control. My lord, the reason for my failure is because of Yi Qing Luo that. Pharaoh, he anxiously wanted to say that there might be someone from the lower realm behind, Yi Qing Luo, helping her. But before he could finish his words, he was sent flying by a powerful force, crashing heavily onto the stone wall of the palace. With a dong, he rolled down from the stone wall. Pharaoh, he clutched his chest as he spat out a mouthful of blood. A failure is a failure. Don't try to find excuses for your failure. A cold and sinister voice rang out, carrying with it an obvious killing intent. Spare me, Lord. Spare me. I know I was wrong. I won't fail again. Pharaoh Crane's plea did not arouse the slightest bit of sympathy from the King of Darkness. That powerful force came wave after wave. It continuously swept up Pharaoh Crane's body. He was flung around in all directions. Under the punishment of the King of Darkness, several of Pharaoh He's bones were broken, and blood was flowing out his mouth. After an unknown period of time, perhaps the King of Darkness was tired. Perhaps it was because he saw Pharaoh Crane lying on the ground on his last breath. He only needed one more strike to take Pharaoh Crane's life. The majestic aura that lingered in the surroundings suddenly dissipated. Yi Qing Luo remained standing at the same spot, her body tensed up, totally unaffected by this imposing manner. The target was the King of Darkness. Pharaoh Crane was riddled with scars from a fall. He didn't dare to order Yi Qing Luo to bear it for him. Yi Qing Luo didn't hear old man songs remind her. Pharaoh, he had used a secret art to control her. Chapter 1671. Pharaoh Crane's entire body was filled with an excruciating pain. His body felt as though it was being cut by numerous saw teeth. His face was pale as the pain continued to stimulate his consciousness. But he didn't dare to dodge or resist at all. Useless trash. What's the use of this king keeping a bunch of trash like you? King of Darkness's voice was hoarse as it was filled with a terrifying eeriness. Pharaoh Crane laid on the ground as he panted heavily. His face was filled with bloodstains. His forelimbs had lost the ability to move under King of Darkness's violent attacks. But when he heard King of Darkness's voice, Pharaoh Crane forced himself to hold on as he slowly shifted his body into a kneeling position. His voice was trembling as he opened his mouth in terror. Overlord, please forgive me, although I failed in the mission of the Spirit Assimilation Array, but I brought Yi Qing Luo back. Saying that, he raised his head with difficulty as he looked at Yi Qing Luo, who was standing stiffly by the side, not moving at all. For a long time, King of Darkness didn't say a word. It was just that the chill in the surroundings continued to spread. Even if it was Yi Qing Luo, her skin had already started to break out with goosebumps under this chill. Finally, King of Darkness's voice rang. Yi Qing Luo, that vessel. Yes, it's the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's vessel. Pharaoh Crane immediately responded. As long as there's profound chi nurtured by the vessel, I can also speed up my lord's unsealing speed. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade? Vessel? When Yi Qing Luo heard Pharaoh Crane's words, her heart thumped extremely quickly. Could it be her heaven-defying Profound Heart Jade? What kind of Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade was it? And was this Profound Heart Jade's vessel? Using her own body to nurture this Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade's vessel? Why didn't she understand the meaning behind Pharaoh Crane's words? You bunch of trash do have some use. King of Darkness sneered softly. Yi Qing Luo suddenly felt that there was a pair of icy cold, terrifying gaze falling onto her. She was unable to sense the exact direction of that gaze. Or perhaps she felt that there were people staring at her from all directions. That gaze was glued onto her. It made her have a nauseous impulse. Yi Qing Luo knew. The King of Darkness was sizing her up. She couldn't move, her heart couldn't beat fast, and her breathing couldn't be rushed. The King of Darkness was not Pharaoh Crane. Any small problem could expose the fact that she was not being controlled by Tao Wu. What are you waiting for? Bring the container over to this king. Could it be that you want this king to do it himself? As soon as the King of Darkness's cold voice rang out, a loud sound rang out. Pharaoh He, who was kneeling on the ground, was once again sent flying backward. Pharaoh Crane rolled a few times on the ground. Enduring the intense pain, he stumbled and crawled towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. What are you waiting for? Go over to his lordship's side. Pharaoh He leaned close to Yi Qing Luo as he commanded in a low voice. Yi Qing Luo's body stiffened as she lifted her feet and walked towards that circular altar. Pharaoh Crane took the opportunity to chant a secret technique and performed a simple healing and pain relief on himself before catching up. The closer they got to the altar, the thicker the stench of blood permeated Yi Qing Luo's nose. The smell of blood. The smell was even more pungent and unpleasant than when she was in the flame lair and the ground was littered with corpses. Chapter 1672. My lord, the last time I obtained the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, I could only use it to sense the location of the vast water divine weapon. This time, with this vessel, I will definitely be able to maximize the effects of the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. Pharaoh Crane cautiously approached the altar, not forgetting to flatter it in a low voice. Have you found the whereabouts of the other Azure Water Divine weapons? The King of Darkness scoffed. Pharaoh He's face turned pale, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. How could he have forgotten? Even though he had obtained the Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade, the Azure Dew Ring was still taken away by Yi Qing Luo in the end. If it wasn't for his lord having foresight and letting him use a secret technique first to tamper with the Profound Heart Jade, he wouldn't have been able to do so. I'm afraid they totally had no idea how to deal with Yi Qing Luo. The dark forces were losing again and again. All of them had fallen onto Yi Qing Luo. He was still mentioning the vast water divine artifact. Wasn't that courting death? Pharaoh He's body trembled, and his voice trembled as he said, "And my lord, don't worry. After this subordinate transmits the mystical energy within the vessel to my lord, I will immediately send the people of the Crane faction to search for the whereabouts of the other Azure Water Divine weapons. If you're going to search for the whereabouts of the divine artifact, how is this vessel going to nurture the profound energy needed to break my seal?" The King of Darkness sneered. Pharaoh Crane was drenched in cold sweat. Bean-sized beads of sweat dripped from his forehead. His body trembled in fear. Their conversation made Yi Qing Luo even more puzzled. Was it her Profound Heart Jade, or the radar that was searching for the Azure Water Divine weapon? She suddenly remembered that last time, in the tomb of the Ling King, the people from the Dark Forces had used her Profound Heart Jade to open the barrier of the Azure Water Ring. Her Profound Heart Jade, did it have any special connection to the Azure Water Divine artifact? She remembered that the Azure Water Ring seemed to be calling out to her at that time. It was as if the Azure Water Ring was originally a divine tool that belonged to her. Why was the King of Darkness collecting the Azure Water Divine weapon? Moreover, it seemed like he was determined to get it. To the Dark Forces, the Azure Water Divine artifact. What kind of crucial role did it play? Cough, cough, little girl. What you should be worried about right now isn't the matter of the vast Water Divine artifact. Old Man Song reminded her helplessly. If your profound energy is completely sucked out by Pharaoh He and transferred to the seal of the sacred region, you will lose all your profound energy and become a cripple. Yi Qing Luo laughed secretly in her heart. Did you think that I would give Pharaoh He this chance? Are you going to use force? Old Man Song hurriedly tried to dissuade him. This is the territory of the Dark Forces. If the King of Darkness knows that your Profound Heart Jade isn't contaminated by the profound Yin Qi, you won't be able to leave the Darkness Sanctuary with your strength. The King of Darkness won't be able to remain conscious for long. Furthermore, he used up all his energy to punish Pharaoh He. How much energy does he have left? Yiqing Luo asked calmly. She noticed. The King of Darkness was determined to kill Pharaoh He. However, when Pharaoh He said that she, as a vessel, should be transferred to the King of Darkness, she felt a chill run down her spine. The King of Darkness' killing intent had clearly weakened. The King of Darkness needed power. Even if it was sealed, he still needed power. Before entering the Darkness Sanctuary, the Butterfly Saint technique had mentioned that the King of Darkness would awaken for a short period of time. Short period of time. These two words meant that the time that the King of Darkness would be awake for wasn't considered long. Or rather, the reason why he could obtain a short period of consciousness. Chapter 1673, which meant, even if Yiqing Luo revealed that she wasn't contaminated, the King of Darkness couldn't do anything to her. Old Man Song was stunned as he burst out laughing. What a good lass, Luo. Your thoughts are so meticulous. I finally understand the reason why you insist on following Pharaoh He into the dark sacred region. This lass, she would never do anything that she wasn't sure of, even if she was in danger. She had already planned all her escape routes. She was indeed the owner of the Azure Dew bracelet. Just as Yiqing Luo and Old Man Song were conversing, she and Pharaoh He were already standing on the altar. Pharaoh He looked at the stiff young lady who was standing in the middle of the altar. A sinister glint flashed past his eyes. If it wasn't for the fact that this young lady was the divine phoenix, Profound Jade's vessel, he would definitely strangle her to death. Suppressing the hatred and anger towards Yiqing Luo, Pharaoh He walked over to her. My lord, I will start the incantation now. Pharaoh He grabbed Yiqing Luo's wrist and pressed her against the altar wall, which was filled with complicated patterns. Suddenly, a bone-piercing chill came from his back. A disgusting, indescribable feeling of disgust and fear surged up her heart. That was the feeling of the King of Darkness. On the wall of the altar, it was the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. This was the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. Pharaoh He raised her hand, and after pressing it against the wall, he pulled her other hand and pressed it against the wall. But when he pressed down on the other hand, suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Her body was like a broken kite as it flew out horizontally. He was flung out of the altar and landed on the ground. Yiqing Luo used all her strength for this kick. That kick caused Pharaoh He's internal organs to feel like they had been shattered. His throat felt sweet as he spat out a mouthful of blood. You. Pharaoh He trembled as he raised his head to look at the altar. But he discovered that Yiqing Luo was standing by the side of the altar, looking at him with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Pharaoh He's eyes were filled with shock. You can't even speak properly. Just save some energy. Yiqing Luo's pink lips curled upwards as she leapt down the altar. Then he stomped on Pharaoh Crane's chest. Another mouthful of blood gushed out from Pharaoh Crane's mouth. It's fine if you can't speak. Whatever you want to ask, I'll answer it for you. Yiqing Luo gave a light smile as she lowered her body slightly, looking down at Pharaoh He's face, which was filled with terror. You want to know why I attacked you, right? Pharaoh Crane's pupils constricted. The moment he got agitated, his internal organs tightened as well. It was so painful that he couldn't help but curl up and twitch. Pharaoh He, don't doubt your own secret arts. Yiqing Luo's smile deepened. I don't have the ability to break free from your secret arts control. Pharaoh Crane shook his head. If it wasn't for the fact that she had broken free from his secret technique, she would have died. How could Yiqing Luo possibly regain her consciousness? Because from the beginning to the end, I have never been controlled by you. Yiqing Luo's fingers gently touched her chest. In my profound jade heart, I used the dark secret arts to hide the profound in Shi, just to wait for this moment. But unfortunately, your plan has failed once again. Pharaoh He's pupils suddenly widened. His eyes were filled with astonishment, as though he was surprised that Yiqing Luo knew all these. Yiqing Luo smiled like a flower. Pharaoh He's face was as white as paper. The atmosphere froze in an instant. Chapter 1674. Hearing King of Darkness's words, Yiqing Luo turned her head and looked towards the altar, which was filled with patterns on the wall. Her pink lips rose slightly as she said in an evil and frivolous tone, "Then you have to come out from inside first." The surrounding mysterious in-shi, as well as the impending chill of a storm, suddenly deepened. King of Darkness was enraged. He was enraged. Yiqing Luo smiled even more joyfully. Between her brows was a bright and enchanting smile. "King of Darkness, don't try to threaten me." Her voice was calm, without any fluctuation of emotions. "You have been sealed. Your remaining energy is probably not enough to keep me in the dark sacred region." So confident, King of Darkness laughed coldly. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes were filled with a sliver of arrogance. "Then why don't King of Darkness give it a try, to use your last bit of energy to test me, or to stop me, to destroy your plan to remove the seal?" Silence made this treacherous atmosphere become more and more strange. King of Darkness didn't speak. Yiqing Luo's heart slowly calmed down. Her guess was right. King of Darkness didn't have much energy left. She had this divine phoenix, profound heart jade, so King of Darkness didn't dare to make a move easily. After all, King of Darkness didn't know much about her ability. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about King of Darkness's silence. She turned her head back as her lips curled into a smile. Her eyes were filled with a sharp glint as she fixed her gaze on Pharaoh He, who was lying on the ground, unable to move. "Pharaoh He, do you want to live on?" She smiled lightly as her tone was gentle. Pharaoh He's pupils contracted as he stared furiously at Yiqing Luo. She smiled slightly. "Your life to me is not that important. If I want to strangle you, it's much easier than strangling an ant." Pharaoh He was so angry that his heart was in pain. His entire body trembled. His internal organs were trembling, as though they were being torn apart. "Answer my question obediently, and I guarantee that you will be safe." Out of the dark, sacred region, Yiqing Luo suddenly bent down as her slender fingers suddenly clasped on a Pharaoh He's neck. Her fingers tightened. The bones of her fingers were slender and distinct. Pharaoh He's pale face instantly turned purplish-green. Pharaoh He's pupils dilated as he struggled to break free from Yiqing Luo's fingers. But his body was riddled with wounds, and he didn't have the strength to struggle. "You don't want to die, right?" Yiqing Luo could see the desire to live from Pharaoh He's eyes. He wanted to ask the King of Darkness for help, but he couldn't say a word. Yiqing Luo smiled as she loosened the strength on his neck, as her other hand landed on his face, as she gently patted him. "It wasn't easy to get to where you are today. How would you bear to die so easily? Don't worry. As long as you answer my questions obediently, not only will I guarantee your safety, but I will also guarantee that you will obtain the sacred butterfly technique." He mentioned the butterfly saint technique. Pharaoh He's eyes flashed with a glint. Yiqing Luo took a panoramic view of his emotional changes. Then, she continued, "Think about it. If I send you out, and I stay in the darkness sanctuary to fight the King of Darkness, who will benefit in the end?" The glint in Pharaoh He's eyes grew brighter. If Yiqing Luo and the King of Darkness were to fight, the current King of Darkness might not be Yiqing Luo's match. If the King of Darkness was completely sealed, wouldn't the beneficiaries be the 4 great saint techniques and the 4 great pharaohs? By then, he would pretend to be under the King of Darkness's orders. He would control all the dark forces in his hands. Chapter 1675. This bottle of medicine can make the butterfly saint skill willingly to follow you. Yiqing Luo touched the profound phoenix ring and took out a white jade bottle. Under this treacherous light, that white jade bottle shone with a dazzling luster. Pharaoh He's gaze fell directly on the white jade bottle. He heard that Yiqing Luo was an alchemist. It was extremely normal for Yi Qing Luo to be able to refine a pill that could make a lady willingly follow her. What do you want to know? Pharaoh, he finally surrendered. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled slightly. What is the divine phoenix profound heart jade? What secret is hidden in this profound heart jade of mine? This. Pharaoh, his face turned pale, as though he didn't expect Yi Qing Luo to ask this question. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows. Why? Not willing to say? No. Pharaoh, he hurriedly opened his mouth, his eyes filled with panic. But this matter is extremely complicated. Maybe you don't understand. Yi Qing Luo continued to raise her brows as she softly hummed a note. But it made Pharaoh, his scalp go numb. Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade. It's... Pharaoh, he looked towards the altar in horror, only to discover that the King of Darkness didn't move at all. Then he looked at Yi Qing Luo's beautiful face with a light smile. He gritted his teeth and replied, Divine Phoenix Profound Heart Jade is the most noble profound heart jade in this world. There is only one of it in this world. Most noble? How much is the difference between the purple grade profound heart jade and the profound heart jade behind you? Yi Qing Luo asked again. Purple grade profound heart jade? There's no comparison at all. This is only because you people from the lower realms think that the purple grade profound heart jade is the highest grade profound heart jade. In the upper realms, there are a lot of them. But the preciousness of the divine phoenix profound heart jade, even the strongest person in the god realm covets it. Yi Qing Luo remained silent for a moment. She had heard of the lower realms and the upper realms more than once. This nirvana realm was the lower realm. Then the upper realms. Was it referring to those legendary cultivators who were brought to a higher realm? He was worried that Yi Qing Luo wouldn't understand. Pharaoh, he explained in great detail once more. The upper realm was divided into 3 realms. In the lower realm, the upper realm was called the upper 3 realms. The upper 3 realms were divided into the earth realm, heaven realm, and God realm. The God world was the strongest plane of existence. Any random passerby there, if placed in the next plane, could set off a reign of terror and break the balance of the heavenly Tao. And the profound heart jade that even the strongest people in the God world coveted. It was clear how precious the divine phoenix profound heart jade was. After Yi Qing Luo heard all these, her heart was filled with astonishment. Her profound heart jade was actually so precious? It was no wonder that the King of Darkness had thought of all sorts of ways to dig away her profound heart jade. Then, what do you mean by vessel? Yi Qing Luo didn't forget how the King of Darkness addressed her. Pharaoh Crane was no longer as bashful as before and answered straightforwardly. Not everyone can control the divine phoenix profound heart jade. Once an ordinary profound heart jade is dug out, a profound practitioner can absorb its profound energy. But the divine phoenix heart jade was different. When we obtain the divine phoenix profound heart jade, we can't even unleash 1% of its power. And you are the divine phoenix profound heart jade's vessel, the energy absorber. Only your body can nurture the divine phoenix profound heart jade, and from there, produce an endless supply of profound energy. It was indeed like this. Chapter 1676. Since transmigrating till now, Yi Qing Luo had a question in her heart. But this question, the people from the Yi family would definitely not give her an answer. As the young matriarch of Three Springs sect, she had an enviable, profound jade heart. Why was it that she was trash without any profound chi? And after she transmigrated to this continent, she used the dragon god cauldron to refine the marrow cleansing pill, which changed this body's physique. Then, if her profound jade heart was the divine phoenix profound jade heart, why couldn't her original body cultivate? Then how could it give birth to an endless stream of profound chi? Yi Qing Luo. You can rest assured, although the divine phoenix profound jade heart is something everyone in the upper realm wants, But other than you, no one else can bring out the effect of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. Seeing that Yi Qing Luo didn't speak, Pharaoh he thought that she was worried that her divine phoenix profound jade heart will be discovered by the people from the upper realm. And your current strength is not enough to bring out the maximum power of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. The people from the upper realm will not find out about the birth of the divine phoenix profound jade heart. And how did you know? Yi Qing Luo smiled faintly. The ridiculousness of the cold glare made Pharaoh he tremble. This is what his lordship said. We are only following orders. Pharaoh he was so scared that his face turned pale as he hurriedly replied, King of Darkness? Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes and glanced at the seal on the altar. A trace of suspicion flashed past her eyes, but she didn't continue to investigate. Instead, her lips curled as she looked at Pharaoh he with a light smile. What do you want to use my profound jade heart to collect the azure water divine weapon for? Pharaoh he's pupils contracted continuously. For a long time, he couldn't open his mouth to answer. Obviously, Yi Qing Luo's question touched the scope of his resistance. But the more Pharaoh he refused to answer the question, the more Yi Qing Luo wanted to know. What was the use of the azure water divine weapon to the dark forces? Pharaoh he cared so much about the azure water divine weapon. What secret was the azure water divine weapon hiding? Yi Qing Luo's fingertips drew out a sharp dagger from the fan handle. She bent down and placed the cold dagger on Pharaoh he's face. She smiled and said in a gentle tone, Pharaoh Crane, I'm not a very patient person. If you insist on wasting your time here, my dagger will not have eyes. Pharaoh he's face turned even paler. He tensed his body, trying to avoid the dagger in Yi Qing Luo's hand. But when he moved, the sharp blade pierced into the skin on his face. A streak of blood oozed out from his face. A piercing pain caused Pharaoh he's hair to stand on end. He knew that Yi Qing Luo wasn't joking. If he continued to hesitate, the next place that Yi Qing Luo's dagger would slash open would be his neck. Pharaoh Crane's entire body was trembling. It was unknown whether it was because of anger or fear. It was only at the last moment when Yi Qing Luo impatiently moved her dagger. He gritted his teeth and squeezed each word out from between his teeth. The azure water divine weapon is the highest position in the upper realms. God Realm's Lord God Emperor's personal accessory 10,000 years ago and is tainted with Lord God Emperor's power. Rumors say that Lord God Emperor passed away 10,000 years ago and was buried in the God Emperor's tomb. And the azure water divine weapon is the guide to find the God Emperor's tomb. Speaking of this, Pharaoh he's voice paused for a moment. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed. What motive does the dark forces have to find the God Emperor's tomb? Yi Qing Luo half squatted down as she leaned close to Pharaoh he's ear and laughed lightly. Haven't I said it before? I will fight to the death with the King of Darkness, and you will be the one who benefits in the end. Isn't that a win-win situation? In other words, this is the way to seal the King of Darkness. Tell her. She had completely sealed the King of Darkness. As for Pharaoh he, after leaving the Sanctuary of Darkness, he became the leader of the dark forces. This was a blatant temptation. Pharaoh Crane was silent. Yi Qing Luo picked up the white jade bottle and shook it in front of his eyes. Her eyes squinted slightly as traces of craftiness swirled around. Of course, if you insist on protecting the King of Darkness's secret and wholeheartedly die, I can fulfill your wish. Coercion and temptation, using both methods at the same time. Pharaoh he finally compromised. He clenched his fists tightly, as he had no strength to resist and could only obey. Chapter 1678. Runes on the Wall. Yi Qing Luo straightened her body as she looked towards the altar. That wall, which was filled with complicated patterns, was emitting a dense, cold aura. Earlier, when Pharaoh had pinned her on that wall, Yiqing Luo could obviously feel the touch of the King of Darkness who was sealed behind the wall. That wall. It was indeed the place where the King of Darkness was sealed. Pharaoh after I seal the King of Darkness completely, I will not forget about your benefits. Yiqing Luo turned her head as she revealed a radiant smile. Following that, she turned around and, with a leap, she leapt onto the altar and headed straight towards that wall, which was filled with runes. Her slender figure, under the dim and treacherous light, showed her oppressive aura. Pharaoh laid on the ground as a sharp glint flashed past his eyes. Yiqing Luo's back was facing him, so he couldn't see her expression, but he could guess. Yiqing Luo must be extremely delighted. Then let's be delighted. Let's see who can laugh till the end. Yiqing Luo's footsteps were light, as though she was extremely happy. She squinted her eyes as an undetectable glint flashed past her eyes. She swept a glance at the surroundings. The circular altar was extremely spacious. In front of the seal array on the rune wall, a few burning lamps were placed. A palm-sized oil lamp was burning with a weak flame. The runes on the wall shone even more strangely. Could the King of Darkness have exhausted his energy and been sealed again? Yiqing Luo muttered softly as she stared at the rune array. Following that, she turned her head as her eyes were filled with joy. Pharaoh what should I do to destroy this seal array? Use your Divine Phoenix Profound Jade Heart's energy to unleash your profound energy to the maximum and destroy the seal array along with the altar. Pharaoh replied extremely quickly this time, without any hesitation. Yiqing Luo nodded her head in understanding. Following that, she walked straight towards the rune seal array. She shut her eyes as she activated the profound Jade Heart's energy. A powerful and terrifying profound energy fluctuation started from her feet as it spread outwards. The profound Jade Heart's energy was completely unleashed. Yiqing Luo opened her eyes. An enchanting red glow flashed past her eyes. She raised her palm and filled it with dark force. Slowly, that palm descended. Pharaoh Crane looked at Yiqing Luo's actions nervously. His sinister eyes were filled with ecstasy. Because of his excitement, his severely injured body was thrown to the back of his mind. When this palm landed, as long as this palm strike landed, Yiqing Luo was completely finished. She would completely become a tool for the dark forces to generate qi. Swish, swish, swish. Just as Pharaoh Crane was filled with excitement, a few inexplicable voices could be heard in the air. On the altar, the aura of the woman who was releasing dense Xin qi had suddenly decreased. His palms were filled with dark force and turned into a hurricane. The hurricane swept up the oil lamps in front of the ceiling array in an instant. The weak burning light was instantly extinguished. The moment the lights were turned on, Pharaoh's face instantly turned pale. He staggered back a few steps. He wasn't able to stand properly as he fell heavily onto the ground. His face was filled with astonishment as he looked in disbelief at the young lady who had retracted her palm wind. His heart instantly sank to the bottom. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.